talking real loud, spreading no light, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Got my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Propaganda swirling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules. In this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In the heart of the struggle, we dare to dream. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track.
Another Queen Ahmadiyyah production.
Haze on the corner, they talking real loud, spreading no light, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Got my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Propaganda swirling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules. In this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In the heart of the struggle, we dare to dream. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. Haze on the corner, they talking real loud, spreading no light, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Got my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Propaganda swirling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules. In this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In the heart of the struggle, we dare to dream.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning back in once again to the original Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur show. I'm your host, Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur, and this is your morning wake-up call. So as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click that notification bell and click the word all so you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. Okay, please be sure to hit that like button. All right. And also, don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Dr._A_Shakur. Also on Twitter at DGoddess27, as per usual. If you don't like what the Queen is cooking, you already know what to do. Okay, so before we get started, let's have a brief word from my sponsor at 12 Tribes.
Do not buy 12 Tribes on Earth hair growth oil and hair magic elixir unless you want super healthy, gorgeous hair that grows. They have a whole line of amazing hair growth products, including hair growth leave-in conditioner spray, hair growth shampoo, hair growth spray, and hair growth butter. I'm starting to sense a theme here. They include quality natural ingredients. They smell amazing, and you can see the results for yourself. So if you're looking for healthy hair growth for your natural or relaxed hair, try 12 Tribes on Earth today.
Okay, so don't forget that you can purchase 12 Tribes hair oil at Etsy.com. Just look for Lisa Crafts. And you can also find it at Walmart.com. Okay, so y'all, the day is finally here. Okay, today's the day, y'all. Diddy's jury selection starts. Okay, so we're going to get into it. Now, Diddy has hired, as I told you all days ago, Diddy has new attorneys that he supposedly was going to add to his team. Now, hold on, give me just a second, because I think I just confirmed that Mark Garagos is one of Diddy's new attorneys. Now, mind you, I already told you all this, that I felt like Mark Garagos was absolutely going to be one of the 2 attorneys added, because some of the things that he said previously on a podcast that I played for you all, and also because he's been Diddy's attorney before, as well as he's Tina Garagos, who's Diddy's attorney. He's actually Tina Garagos' father. And so it looks like he's going to be joining, but also there's another attorney, and his name is Xavier R. Donaldson. Okay, so we're going to talk about him because he is supposedly Diddy's replacement for Anthony Rico. Okay, now if you all remember Anthony Rico, he left abruptly, didn't really give too many details as to why, really no explanation. Some said that there were some kind of differences or something like that, perhaps. Not really sure why he left, but it has been implied that this man is likely his replacement. Okay, so with that all been said, hold on, guys. I'm preoccupied because what I'm doing is I'm adding Mark Garagos. I'm adding him to the. Hold on, I'm almost done. I'm trying to squeeze him in here on this thumbnail, because I can tell you right now, Mark Garagos joining Diddy's team is going to be that's going to be big. And also Mark Garagos will likely, I'm not going to say he's going to be the lead attorney because that's supposedly Mark Agnifilo, but Mark Garagos would be the senior attorney. Okay, so he's going to play a big role if he actually has joined, and I do believe that he has. Okay, so anyway, with that all being said, let's go to Inner City News and see what's going on, because they've been reporting. Okay, they've been reporting on this, so I'm going to share my screen. Everyone, please hit that like button. Please like, share, and subscribe. We got Hadassah in here. Sunset Nights is in the house. Good morning to you. Our Grand Rising. Vivia is here. Eric is here. Okay, Diddy in Dallas. The Crazy Beach Aries. All right, let's get ready to get into it. Witty T, Nessa G. Most Hated Bronze Flat Power God. All Hell Nah. The Enemy's Public with Brother Nasir. All right, Christopher Perkins is here. Christina. Did I say Most Hated Bronze Flat Power God is in the house? Okay, Sheila is here. So let's get into it. My Aunt Egypt, I see you, Deronda. Okay, where's my darn moderators? Are they still snoozing? Let me see. Okay, that Crazy Beach Aries is here, but where's everybody else? All right, hey, Cookie and Junior. Okay, so now with that all being said, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, there we go. Now let's see what has been reported thus far.
Civil cases.
Hold on. Okay, so 19 minutes ago, Diddy's docket drumbeat. Here's the scene in front of Southern District of New York Courthouse at 8 a.m. on first day of jury selection, U.S. versus Sean Combs. Inner City Press has covered since indictment. Okay, so now with that,
we've covered Busby coming in and going out. And now jury selection, it's finally arrived. Now, there have been various reports. In fact, in the penultimate pretrial conference, we reported that the judge asked, has a plea offer, was it made? And they said, yes, and you can allocate them about it next week, which was Thursday. And then it happened, and he confirmed that an offer was made, and he rejected it. People have said that means that he rejected the offer last week. No, that's not what it means. In fact, the week before, they'd already said it had been already offered and rejected. At some undisclosed period during the pretrial proceedings, an offer of undisclosed substance and prison guidelines was made and rejected. But so there's that. It wasn't rejected on the eve of trial. And whether it was still open is not known either. Often these such offers have expiration dates. In any event, so there's that. And we're going to begin. Now, there's going to be some issues around how much of the jury selection the press and public will be able to report on. And we stand ready to, if necessary, file to unsequester, because it's a public trial. Same thing later down the road as to the evidence itself, including the freak-off videos. But I digress. Now, we're also, of course, covering the exploding Trump docket, on which I have to say, in this case, a judge in New Jersey, Mr. Michael E. Farbiarz, he's the one dealing with the Mahmoud Khalil case that was initially here in front of Judge Furman, Then it was transferred to Jersey, as he had been, and Fabriars held a hearing on Friday. He put it in the docket that at 12:30 he was going to have a teleconference. Well, you know what? If you don't do it in a courtroom and it's a public
All right. Y'all heard what that man said. Inner city press, they will not rest. Okay, so that all being said, so we'll stay tuned in to Inner City Press to see what updates they're coming up with. Hey, Hundia. Okay, so with that all being said, let's get into this new lawyer. Okay, let's see what's going on with him. Now, hold on. Okay, so Sean Diddy Combs has been making legal additions to his defense team. Okay, and you know, like I said, you heard that here first because I told you all over a month ago that Mark Garagos was likely going to be one of his lawyers. Now, with that all being said, notably, he's included Brian Steele and Mark Garagos. Okay, so it looks like they've confirmed what I told you already with rumors of another possible hire. He also has hired Alexandra Shapiro, who also represents Sam Bankman-Fried, okay, Diddy's jail roommate. Now, Mark Garagos is a well-known celebrity attorney with a history of defending high-profile clients and is rumored to be taking the lead in Diddy's case. Okay. Oh, all right. Say what now? See, I told you all. Y'all know the Queen Bee know what she's talking about. I told you all that Mark Garagos was going to play a pivotal role. Okay. Now, Mark Agnifilo was supposed to be the lead attorney, but I told you Mark Garagos is the senior attorney. Okay, so that's why they're allowing him to take the lead. Of course, that's obvious. Okay, now Alexandra Shapiro is an appellate specialist who also represents Sam Bankman-Fried, and then Brian Steele recently added. Now he represented Young Thug, as you all know. And now let's talk about this new guy. Okay, let's talk about him. His name is Xavier R. Donaldson. Okay, this is him right here, the bald-headed black guy. Now, it's really funny because he's supposedly the replacement for Anthony Rico, and Anthony Rico was a bald-headed black guy. Okay, please pay attention. Okay, so anyway, Xavier R. Donaldson, a New York-based attorney, he filed a notice of appearance, and I actually have that right here. And so I'm going to share my screen real quick. Okay, so with that all being said, this is his notice of appearance he's already filed. And remember, I told you all days ago that Brian Steele, Young Thug's attorney, had also filed pro hoc vice in the Southern District of New York. Okay, so as you can see, it says United States of America versus Sean Combs. Notice of appearance has the docket number, clerk of the court. says you are hereby notified that I will appear for the defendant indicated above in the entitled action. I am appearing in this action. Okay. And then you see his signature, his name right there, Xavier R. Donaldson. Okay. So, honey, Diddy's getting ready because he already knows what time it is. Okay. Please pay attention. All right. So, let's see what else they're saying about this attorney, Donald R. Davidson. Now, he used to be, he's the former owner of Donaldson and Chiliest, I do believe. That was the name of the law firm. Now, he is also a high-profile attorney. Diddy adds high-profile defense attorney Xavier Donaldson to his legal team just days before his S-Crimes trial starts. Okay, so on May the 1st, his attorneys announced plans to add 2 new attorneys. A court filing viewed by Complex on May the 2nd revealed the first, which was Xavier R. Donaldson. Okay, Donaldson, formerly of Donaldson and Chiliest, has defended clients in cases involving murder, narcotics, narcotic conspiracies, bank fraud, rape, and domestic violence. A former Bronx DA, he told the New York State Bar Association in 2019 that people often inquire, how can that lawyer represent that type of person? Okay, a just society requires that the accused be accorded zealous counsel. Okay, that was his response. His passion lies in complex federal cases. Donaldson joins a roster that includes Mark Agnifilo, Tina Garagos, Alexander Shapiro, Jason Driscoll, Ana Maria Estavo, and Brian Steele. Now, with that all being said, Ana Maria Estavo has changed her address, and I just have to ask myself why. I found that kind of interesting that she changed her address. Now, is it because of what may or may not happen during Diddy's trial? I don't know. But nonetheless, that's what's been reported. Okay, so everybody get the likes up. Please like and share. Now, let's go to this video. Okay, let me pull this up real quick. Let's go to this Diddy trial update. Okay, here we go. I'm going to share my screen so you all can see this.
The biggest trial of his life, from those freak-offs to those RICO charges. There's a lot going on in this case, and a lot of witnesses will also be taking the stand. But here to break down the very latest, I want to bring into the conversation legal analyst Nima Rahmani. Nima, thanks so much for being with us here on Knife Now from Fox.
Of course, Christina, excited for next week.
And it's been a trial that we've been continuing to follow here over the last few months and really over the last year as those developments have still tried to come into our newsroom. But let's start with the very basics. Something that came out this week. Diddy formally declined the last plea deal that he was offered. Again, we know court is set to begin on Monday. Was this an expected move for him to turn down that final plea offer?
Christina, it was expected. And the judge in the case, Judge Subramanian, asked Diddy, did you decline and reject the government's offer? And the reason is it's the defendant's right to a speedy trial. And the judge wants to make sure that he is making a knowing and voluntary decision to push the case to trial, because obviously there's a benefit to pleading. Usually you get a reduced sentence. I still think it would be double-digit years in federal prison under any plea deal. Obviously, the judge and the parties did not disclose the terms of that offer, but I can't see the government giving a huge discount in this case. Now, that being said, Christina, if and when Combs is convicted, he may be looking at decades in federal prison. Judges tend not to give much of a discount or leniency when defendants like this push their case to trial, and very serious federal charges like sex trafficking and racketeering are proven beyond a reasonable doubt to a jury. And it is in his mid-50s. I believe he's 55. And if he is convicted, he may end up spending the rest of his life in federal prison.
And it'll be interesting to watch here. And before we jump into the jury selection aspect, I want to talk about what we're going to be expecting to see Diddy wear in court. This has been one of those conversations that's happening. He's allowed to wear up to 5 button-down shirts, pants, sweaters, socks, and shoes without any laces in the courtroom. So he's not going to be there in his normal jail uniform that he's grown, I'm sure, quite accustomed to over the last few months. Is that going to be important for how the jurors see him when they're standing there in court? He'll be wearing regular clothing, not again some of those jumpsuits that they wear while behind bars.
Christina, that's expected. And defense lawyers routinely make this motion for their clients to wear civilian clothes because the prison garb is pretty prejudicial, and jurors see someone in that orange jumpsuit and they assume that he's a criminal. Obviously, we have a presumption of innocence in this country. That presumption can be overcome at trial. I do think the government will be able to overcome that trial, but defense lawyers routinely make this motion. It's routinely granted. You see even accused mass murderers in civilian clothing, suits, button-up shirts, and the like at trial. Obviously, there'll be marshals there to make sure everyone's protected, but this is something that I expected when the defense made the motion, and I don't think the government really had a good basis to object to it.
And again, that jury selection process has been underway. It was an original pool of 600 jurors that they now have to whittle down to just 12 with 6 alternates as well. Okay, let's talk about that process a little bit. What kind of goes on behind the scenes, and how difficult is it truly to get 600 jurors down to just 12?
Christina, they call it jury selection, but really it should be called jury deselection. So the judge goes first and he's going to ask questions of the potential jurors, and he's going to remove any that he believes can't be fair and impartial. Then the parties get to ask their own questions. So you see the lawyers get up there, talk to the jurors about their views on sexual assault, physical violence. Have they ever been victims of a crime? Then the parties get to use their own strikes. These are called peremptories. The lawyers will strike jurors, and they can strike jurors for any reason or no reason at all, as long as it's not a constitutionally prohibited reason like race, religion, national origin. So combine those with the 4 cause challenges. Those are the jurors who are removed because they can't be impartial, plus the peremptories, which are the discretionary strikes. The 12 jurors that remain, those are the 12 jurors in the case. So they weren't selected, but they weren't stricken by the judge or the lawyers. And of course, with a long case like this, I wouldn't be surprised if we have 5 or 6 alternates, because the last thing you want to do is to start a trial over because you run out of jurors.
And again, it's so hard with this case. I would have to ask you, Nima, from what I perceive, because Diddy is a celebrity, a massive celebrity who's had influence for the last several decades in the music industry and beyond. How difficult is it going to be to find impartial jurors who don't have an opinion already on the music mogul?
It'll be difficult, Christina, and this is probably the biggest celebrity case, I think, maybe since Johnny Depp, probably going back to OJ. I mean, this is just such a huge case. And, you know, one issue is Diddy is so big that it doesn't matter if you move the trial from New York City to some other part of the state or even some other part of the country. Everyone in the world knows who Sean Combs is. Everyone's seen the video from 2016 of him seemingly beating ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura. Everyone has a view on this case already. There's not a juror in the entire country that hasn't heard something. So the judge is going to have to ask them to set all that aside and decide the case solely based on the facts and evidence and what they hear in that courtroom.
Do you think we'll hear from Cassie during this trial? Do you think she'll actually get up on the witness stand?
Christina, I do. Cassie is going to be the government's star witness. She is victim 1. She was the person who was named originally in the first indictment. Obviously, we've seen some new iterations to superseding indictments since then, but Cassie Ventura started this whole thing. Let's not forget, November 2023, New York State had opened the statute of limitations to file a civil lawsuit for some of these claims, and she was in negotiations with Combs in terms of a settlement. Reportedly, she wanted 20 or 30 million. He offered only 10 million, and she was up against the clock, so she filed a lawsuit. It was a bombshell lawsuit. I mean, the allegations were salacious. Combs settled it the next day, but at that point it was too late. It was a publicly filed.
Hold on, let me address a comment. Aubrey Allen says, keep in mind going forward, mainstream media mainly reports the prosecution side and also is telling us about getting a Pacer account. Well, beloved, thank you for your insightful information. But we always have other sources than just mainstream. You see, we've been following this since it all started with Cassie's lawsuit and moving forward. We have inside people, boots on the ground. We're just listening to Inner City Press. Okay, that's where we get our live updates from. And believe me, he posts basically what goes on inside the courtroom from both sides. So we don't just get the prosecution, because we know how the lamestream media does, okay? Sometimes they give us fake news. So we don't just rely on them for our receipts on this channel. Also, we already know about Pacer and every paperwork that has been filed in Diddy's case. I'm pretty sure I've read it all, okay? So with that all being said, let's continue, but thank you.
Document, and it really opened the door. Victim after victim came forward. They alleged similar stories of physical and sexual violence in these freak-offs, guns, violence, drugs. And then the government started investigating, and they picked up the case for criminal prosecution, of course, after Combs's homes in LA and Miami were raided. So she is the reason this case is happening. And if he's convicted, and I expect him to be convicted, I do believe it will be because of Cassidy Ventura. They were dating for more than a decade. She knows where the bodies are buried, and she's going to come out and she's going to testify. And importantly, Christina, unlike some other victims, she's going to testify using her name. She hasn't asked to remain anonymous. So I think that's important as well.
And it's going to be something that we're continuing to watch here on Live Now from Fox. I think you summed it up perfectly there. That lawsuit that started it all of the allegations, ending with Sean Diddy Combs behind bars, now facing these very serious federal charges. We appreciate you, legal analyst Nima Rahmani, always helpful in breaking down some of these court cases.
Of course, Christina, have a great weekend, and I'm sure we'll be talking a lot.
Okay, now with that all being said, I like and appreciate Nima Rahmani. Okay, he's a very good legal expert. I don't always tend to agree with everything he says, but for the most part, I do. So with that all being said, let's see what's going on. Let me go back to outside of the courthouse. Okay, so no further updates so far. But let's talk about this witness, because if you all remember, days ago, I told you that I think, once again, I figured it out. I think that witness number 3, who does not want to remain anonymous, and in fact said that she's already known to the public, so she wants her name released. Well, she's going to reveal herself. Okay, she's supposed to be revealed today, and I've already told you all who I thought it was. I did a whole video about it last week for those of you who missed it, and I could be wrong, but I could be absolutely right. But I think that witness number 3 is absolutely Gina Huyhn. Okay, Gina Huyhn, the young lady that was dating Diddy, that did the interview with Tasha K in 2019, said that Diddy beat the crap out of her, stomped her on her stomach and all of that. She claimed that she had been impregnated by Diddy. And the reason I think it's her is not only because she's one of Diddy's, because remember, we already know Cassie's the star witness, witness number 1, or victim number 1, as she's labeled in the documents, and then victims number 2, 3, and 4. We know that number 4 is Diddy's former staff member. Okay, we don't know their name, but that's one of the staff members who is anonymous. Then we know victim number 2 is also anonymous and wants to stay that way, but victim number 3 is wanting to expose themselves. Now, mind you, victims 2 and 3 are people who were in long-term relationships with Diddy. Gina Huyhn was dating Diddy for at least 5 years. She was dating him while he was with Cassie. And also, let's not forget the paperwork that I read to you, where it said Diddy was trying to keep certain evidence out of the trial. And I'm going to go to a video. I'm going to let you hear the audio. I won't show the actual video, but it is Law and Crime Sidebar reporting on that. I just want to get their perspective or whatever. And also just to reiterate some of the things that I've already reported on. But with that all being said, Diddy was trying to keep out evidence for an alleged medical procedure that he supposedly made one of the victims get. Now, at first, I told you all, I was thinking maybe it was Cassie's breast implants, because remember, he got into that whole debacle with Dr. Frank Ryan, who's now deceased, unfortunately. But Gina Huyhn said that she was pregnant, and Diddy wanted her to get an abortion and even offered her $50,000, which she refused. Okay, so I think that's who it is. I'm pretty sure that's who it is. Okay, so with that all being said, let's talk about it, because Diddy Accuser set to reveal identity and testimony as trial starts today. Diddy's trial is expected to last 8 to 10 weeks. Now, let me just give a trigger warning. This article discusses sexual assault and domestic abuse, which some readers may find distressing. Okay, they have a warning on here. Okay, now I haven't listened to this or read it. They have a video on here. What is this video all about? I haven't read this previously. So, okay, so a woman expected to testify against Sean Diddy Combs during the trial is reportedly prepared to do so under her real name. Diddy's trial is set to kick off in New York today, May the 5th, with jury selection at the 55-year-old's as the 55-year-old faces felony charges, which include trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and transportation to engage in prostitution. Now, Combs relied on his employees, resources, and influence of the multifaceted business empire that he led and controlled, creating a criminal enterprise whose members and associates engaged in and attempted to engage in, among other crimes, as trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. This is according to the prosecutor's 14-page indictment that I read to you all months ago. Now, Combs has pleaded not guilty to all 5 charges. And here's the thing. I want you all to pay attention, because I will probably be doing a reading on Diddy sometime this week, which I'll let you all know. But don't forget, you heard it here first, that I predicted that Diddy would be arrested and indicted mid to late September, and Diddy was arrested and indicted September the 16th. Okay, so please pay attention. It's all I'm saying. Now, with that all being said, Combs, of course, has pleaded not guilty to all 5 charges, and in a statement last month, his legal team described his accusers as former long-term girlfriends who were involved in consensual relationships, saying this was their private sex life, defined by consent, not coercion. So that's basically Diddy's defense. Remember, I told you Diddy's saying that he was a swinger. Okay, Diddy said that he was a swinger, that he was not trafficking anyone or making anyone do anything against their wishes. Okay, so that's going to be his defense, that this was all consensual. Everybody was complicit. Okay, nobody was forced or coerced. Okay, with that all being said. So anyway, goes on to say prosecutors allege that the Bad Boy Records founder coerced women into drug-fueled acts at his freak-off parties. And even though a number of men and women have alleged in lawsuits that Combs abused them, the criminal trial will highlight the claims of 4 women. 3 of the 4 women have requested for their identities to be hidden from the public. Okay, now they just told me something that I didn't know. Okay, because did they formally tell us whether or not the staff member was a male or female? They never said. But so now, obviously, it's a female, because they're saying the claims highlight, this criminal trial will highlight the claims of 4 women. And one of those was a staff member. So with that all being said, I'm wondering if it was his former chef. Do you all remember the chef that I told you all about, who said that Diddy, he basically threw her out of the house and she fell on her butt, and she talked about how she was, when she would serve the food and all that stuff, some of the people would be naked just walking around out there, and it's also uncomfortable. I wonder if she's one of the supposed victims. I guess we'll find out soon enough. Or actually we won't, because she's anonymous. But maybe they'll let us know whether or not it was the chef. Okay, they'll probably say what her occupation was, of course. So I guess we will find out. Now, with that all being said, Sky News reports that one of the accusers, who has been referred to as Victim 1 in the court documents, is prepared to testify under her real name. Well, Victim 1, I don't know what they're talking about, because everybody knows that Victim 1 is actually Cassie. Now, once the trial is underway, it's possible that prosecutors could show jurors secret camera footage of Combs' alleged punching, kicking, and then dragging singer Cassie in the hallway of the Los Angeles hotel. Well, they're definitely going to show that. That's already been approved by the judge. Okay, that's already been approved by the judge for them to show that. Diddy tried so hard to keep that out as well. Most of the very damaging evidence Diddy fought, relentlessly to keep it out of the trial. But it's not going to happen, Diddy. You're going down today. Okay, please pay attention. Now, Juju B says, can you really trust the jurors to not go research the case? I don't think so. Honey, you already know every juror that they speak to, every juror that they choose has the scoop on this case. Okay, they absolutely do. And as I've already told you, if Diddy is in fact convicted, Diddy is going to appeal this, and he and his attorneys already have a list of their argument, things that they're going to argue, as to why they should be able to appeal it. Okay, so with that all being said, let's go to this video from Law and Crime. Now, as I said, I'm not going to show the video actually because I don't have permission for one, and I don't want any copyright issues, but I am going to let you all hear the audio. And while I'm getting this ready, let me check and see what's going on with Inner City Press. Okay. So this is what's reported. All rise. Judge Subramaniam, I have composed a list of prospective jurors who, based in their questionnaire answers, I don't propose to do individual Q&A with. Now, the list of people in place is so long. I thought it was an appendix to Lord of the Rings. This is what the judge said. Okay, the judge said, and he laughs about it. Okay, it says there's laughter. So clearly the judge is cracking jokes, but he says the list of jurors or prospective jurors is so long, and the questionnaire, they have the questionnaire and questions, they've already answered it. So he doesn't have to, go through and ask them any questions or whatever. He doesn't have to do a Q&A. But he said the list is so long, he thought it was an appendix to the Lord of the Rings. Okay, next it says Diddy. Oh, okay, that's him advertising something. Hold on. Okay, now U.S. versus Sean Combs, jury selection day 1 here in the courtroom. Diddy in formal dress and wearing reading glasses. Okay, he has with him 8 lawyers. Okay, please pay attention, honey. Diddy didn't come to play, honey. Diddy is in for the fight of his life. Do y'all hear him? Okay, he has 8 attorneys, and he's got on his spectacles, honey. Okay, so with that all being said, that's the last post thus far. Okay, so it looks like they're just getting started. Okay, that's how that sounds. Like they're just getting started. And, jury selection usually starts around 8 o'clock in the morning. Okay. So with that all being said, let me put my overlay on here so we can listen to this. And hopefully, I've not listened to this. That's why I want to hear it. And they may have a legal expert on here speaking as they usually do.
I mean, I hit rock bottom, but I make no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable.
You know what Sean Diddy Combs is doing right now? He's fighting to make sure a jury doesn't see the infamous tape of him purportedly beating up Cassandra Ventura in a hotel hallway from years ago. The defense has raised a number of arguments about why that key piece of evidence, maybe one of the most important pieces of evidence at his upcoming criminal trial, should not make its way in. We're going to break it down for you right now. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Sean Diddy Combs wants a key piece of evidence, potentially one of the most important pieces of evidence at his upcoming criminal trial, to be excluded from ever making its way there. He does not want the jury to see it, to evaluate it, to consider it. Unless, of course, they've already seen it in the media. That becomes a question for jury selection, what they saw or heard leading up to this trial, but that's a separate question. But I am talking about the infamous videotape. The videotape of Combs apparently kicking, striking, dragging Cassandra Cassie Ventura in the hallway of the Intercontinental Hotel out in LA back in 2016 that was published by CNN last year, May 17th, 2024. This was months before Combs' arrest and indictment in September on federal sex crimes charges. And let's not forget, 2 days after CNN published this tape, and it is graphic, it is disturbing. We are not going to show it here for you. It is just so difficult to watch. 2 days after it was published, Combs apologized on Instagram in a now deleted video.
I was up. I mean, I hit rock bottom, but I make no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video.
Whatever your dental practice looks like, you have a lot going on. Meet Weave, a suite of solutions.
I'm disgusted. I was disgusted then when I did it. I'm disgusted now. I'm so sorry.
And we believe that prosecutors wish to introduce this surveillance tape to establish this as evidence of Combs' sex trafficking charge.
Let me tell y'all something. Diddy's a damn fool, because there's no way ever on this earth that I would have caught to that video of beating Cassie. There's no way I would have ever said that it was me. I'd have said that's AI, and they'd had to prove that I was lying, honey. Okay, please pay attention, honey. I would never have caught to that. Wouldn't have done it, okay? Would not have done it, honey, but did it and upped up. All right, that's really going to be damaging. Okay, let me tell y'all something. The main things that are going to be so damaging for Diddy, in my opinion, that Crazy Beach area is so disgusted that you lied about it, okay? With its lying self. But here's the thing. What's going to be so damaging for Diddy, as I told you all, is two major things. That darn video and this right here. This right here. Okay, Cassie's going to walk up in there pregnant, honey. Oh, Diddy, you done effed up. You have effed up, buddy. Okay? I'm sorry, it's true. Because at the end of the day, you already know how they're going to be feeling when they see this pregnant woman walking in there and then see that video of how he beat the crap out of her. And Cassie's pretty and she's looks like a sweet young lady and all of that. Yeah, Diddy, it's a wrap. But anyway, I digress.
Namely of victim one, who we believe to be Combs' ex-girlfriend, Cassandra Ventura. That she was not only running away from Combs, who was apparently seen on that tape just wearing a towel.
Hold on. Aubrey says, whoa, I know Diddy wishes he had just gave Cassie the money that she was asking for, allegedly. She did get the money. She did get the money, beloved. She absolutely did. Remember, they gave Diddy, Diddy's insurance company settled with her in less than 24 hours. She got that money. But here we still are. You see, that's what I told you all the other day. When you're a person of my skin tone and they want to get you and they want to take you down and they have it all set up and have targeted you for a downfall, you're going to go down. Okay? You're going to go down no matter how much money you got, because Diddy paid Cassie that money. And here he still sits. That's all I'm saying. And not to mention the other slew of civil suits filed against him. Because once he paid her, the rest of them smelled the blood in the water and came running like sharks, okay? Now, Tasha says, I think he should have just took the plea deal. He's a damn fool. Well, you know, I'm sure we can't tell him that. He probably should have taken the plea deal. I wonder what the plea deal even was, what they even offered him, because they've never revealed or disclosed that information. But I would love to know. If only I could have been a fly on the wall. But yeah, Diddy probably should have taken that plea deal, honey, because he may end up regretting it, okay? Definitely.
But that she was running away from a sexual episode involving Combs and a sex worker who was allegedly in that hotel room. And remember the allegation here, right? That he would force and coerce women into these sex acts with commercial sex workers, freak offs, all these different kinds of things. And we believe, based on prior arguments from Combs' counsel, the defense will be that they may plan to argue this was merely an unfortunate domestic spat between Combs and Ventura. That, as his attorney, Mark Agnifilo, once put it, evidence of Combs, quote, having more than one girlfriend and getting caught, but not evidence of sex trafficking.
Okay, let me read this comment. Lindell says she got money. It wasn't the amount that she wanted, which is why she's really going to trial. No, absolutely not, beloved. I hate to be the bearer of your bad news. That's not why she's going to trial. Okay, Cassie has been subpoenaed to testify. At the end of the day, she's going to trial because the feds have summoned her to come as their star witness because they chose to file criminal charges against Diddy. If Cassie was so dead set on Diddy going to jail, she would have filed criminal charges, not civil. Okay, so please pay attention and make note of that. When people file civil cases, they usually don't care about the criminal element. They want the money. Okay, and with that all being said, she would have done that first off, not last or second. Okay, so especially when you look at that video of how Diddy was beating the crap out of her and all the things in her lawsuit that she claims Diddy did, I definitely would have wanted him to go to prison for all of it, okay? For all of it. But Cassie chose the money. That's what she did. Let's not try to sugarcoat it. The state decided to prosecute him after a myriad of civil lawsuits had been filed, and they started going through them, and they came to the decision that crimes were committed. Okay? And also, the main reason, which I told you all over a year ago, Diddy is going down because Diddy dared to go against the grain. Diddy dared to go against the man, the elite, the folk that are in charge. He sued Diageo. That's the only reason Diddy's in this mess. It's because Diddy sued Diageo. Let us not forget. Diddy has been a terror on the streets of New York and other places, Miami, California, you name it, for 3 years. I mean, for 3 decades, okay? Allegedly. According to rumors, reports, and witnesses and allegations, Diddy has been terrorizing the world for at least 30 years, all right? Again, allegedly. So with that all being said, you think that he would be in this predicament had he not sued those white folk? I guarantee you he wouldn't be, okay? Because as long as you go by their rules and play by their game and do what they say, you're okay. You can get away with anything. They'll cover for you. They'll sweep it under the rug. Please pay attention. Look at Shannon Sharpe. Look where Shannon Sharpe is right now. Now, Shannon Sharpe didn't sue anybody, but for whatever reason, they decided to take him down, and that's where he's going. No ifs, ands, or buts. Okay, I already told you all how that's going to work at the end of the day. And likely the reason for Shannon's demise is because he was stupid. He fell for the honey trap, because that's all this is with Shannon. It's a whole shakedown. It's a honey trap. And he was stupid enough with his old arse to fall for it. But the problem with Shannon is he didn't sue anybody, but he's already been sued. Back in 2010, he had to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for an incident that happened when he was working for CBS, if I'm not mistaken. And also, there's been at least 10 cases at some point throughout the years from 1994 till now where Shannon has been involved or had been accused of violence and other things, okay? Rape as well. So this time, they're not sweeping it under the rug, Shannon. You had one too many chances, okay? 10 things filed on him. I showed you all the receipts, okay? They say the first incident was 1994. Even though the next one wasn't until 2004, allegedly. But at the end of the day, this wasn't his first time at the rodeo. And so it's just a wrap for Shannon. They only gave him so many chances. And Diddy, like I said, dared to sue Diageo. So here's where he's at.
Also, by the way, Combs can't be charged at the state level for allegedly beating up Cassandra Ventura because it's past the applicable statute of limitations, but you can see why it would play a key role in a sex trafficking and racketeering case, transportation to engage in prostitution too. Now, Combs may not want to even test his defense at trial. Now, it seems what he wants to do would be to make sure that this video doesn't see the light of day in a courtroom, because in recent filings, Combs wants that video or videos excluded from trial. And for that, we turn to his motion in limine to exclude video footage of that March 5th, 2016 incident.
Now, remember, for those of you who weren't here, let me just tell you all, as I told everybody previously, what a motion in limine is. That's basically when they're trying to exclude certain evidence. Okay, that's what that is. Aubrey said, I don't believe Diageo Spirits had anything to do with it unless they told Cassie to make the civil claims. But she went to Diddy before she even made the civil claims. Well, that's your speculation. Okay, that's your opinion. At the end of the day, like I said, I've been doing this long enough to know that people like Diddy, as much as of a benefit as he was to people like Clive Davis and others that he's been in cahoots with, Ronald Burkle, for example, Diddy has ties to Epstein. Diddy is going down, not because Cassie just came out and said something. He sued those folks. And when he sued those folks, and here's the thing, I have inside information. Let us not forget. I've given you all different information and videos that nobody else had because I got it from insiders who know Diddy. Okay, so with that all being said, Diddy is in this predicament, like I said, because of Diageo. Okay, and at the end of the day, it was also reported to me, and I told you all this months ago, that allegedly it was Clive Davis who hired Douglas Wigdor for Cassie and got Cassie to bring charges against Diddy. Okay, because, and then ask yourself, Cassie broke up with Diddy in 2018. Why didn't she file the civil lawsuit then? Why all of a sudden did Cassie file it? Because it was after the whole thing with Diageo. I mean, it's easy to follow the trail of breadcrumbs. I really don't have time to go through because for all of you who follow my channel regularly, there's new people in here who don't know, but for those of you who follow the channel regularly, you've seen all the receipts that I presented, and so you know exactly why I say that. Okay, but let's continue.
Motion in limine is a pretrial motion that aims at preventing evidence from coming into trial or limiting it in some way. And it starts by saying, quote, "There is no longer any dispute that the CNN footage from March 5th, 2016 at the Intercontinental Hotel offered by the government at 3 separate bail hearings is wholly inaccurate, having been altered, manipulated, sped up, and edited to be out of sequence. As indicated below, CNN paid Redacted, don't know who this person is, Redacted, for footage, copied that footage in unknown ways, presented that footage out of order, and destroyed the original. Accordingly, all the footage from CNN is inaccurate and inadmissible. As for the 2 items of footage filmed by an iPhone 6, those pieces of footage are inaccurate and admissible as well for the reasons set out below." Now that's interesting that there's apparently iPhone footage of this incident as well. So let me get into Combs' argument that all of this video evidence of this incident should be excluded, shouldn't make its way into trial. So the first thing Combs requests from the court is to hold a hearing. And at this hearing, Combs explains that his team wants to call a forensic video analysis named Connor McCord to show that this video evidence is inaccurate. Sean Combs' defense team argues the videos are unreliable, that they would unfairly confuse and mislead the jury, that they would be more prejudicial to Combs than it would provide any kind of relevant or probative value for the prosecution's case. They write, quote, "If a picture is worth 1,000 words, a video is worth a number well over the court's word limit." Again, the basic argument from Combs and his team is that CNN heavily and deceptively edited the video and turned about 10 and a half minutes of footage into a 48-second, quote, "out of order clip that ended with Combs appearing to drag Redacted," again, we believe that to be Cassandra Ventura, "to a hotel room. And they argue that this painted the rapper and the music mogul in the worst possible light for the world to see. And as they...
Okay, so we have another update from Inner City Press with Matthew Russell, whom I greatly appreciate for getting this news. Okay, so Judge Subramaniam says, "I understand that's how it was done in the Maxwell case." He's clearly talking about Ghislaine Maxwell. Okay, and then AUSA says, hold on. Let me make sure I didn't skip anything. Okay. So he says, "I understand that's how it was done in the Maxwell case." AUSA Maureen Comey says, "Yes, it was." Okay. Now, Judge Subramaniam then says, "I think it is sufficient for me to say here on the record that there will be times a juror has privacy concerns about assault or trauma, and it would be appropriate to address that at a sidebar with the transcript sealed." Now, mind you, I already told you all this. Okay, see, the judge is saying what I already told you. I told you all that the jury may have concerns about privacy because, remember, some of the questions in the questionnaire, which the prosecution deemed as irrelevant to their capability of being a juror. But I also explained to you why the defense would ask those certain questions. They would ask those questions because they want to make sure, or try to, ensure as much as they could, that these people would not be biased. Okay, so they wanted to ask them things like, have you ever experienced trauma? What about sexual assault? Okay, have you ever been a counselor for people that have experienced it or whatever? They wanted to know those things. So basically, this is what the judge is talking about. Because remember, I told you that those type of questions, when the jury is asked those things, that would likely, or if they answer yes to those things, that would likely be sidebar. Okay, they wouldn't want everybody hearing all of what they had to say, likely. So now the judge is saying that, yes, that absolutely would be something that they'd address sidebar. Okay, so that was just common sense to me. Okay, so anyway, let's continue.
Previously incorrectly mentioned, prosecutors relied on this tape in prior bail hearings to support their argument that Combs shouldn't be released pre-trial. By the way, talking digital evidence, talking alleged crimes, did you know that cybercrime is growing more dangerous and widespread? It's threatening business % off of your first month. But this is where things get interesting, because Combs claims that on November 13th, 2024, the government handed over to them 2 iPhone videos that were in the possession of Redacted. So maybe Ventura, not sure, but they were in the possession of Redacted. And Combs claims these videos are recordings of surveillance footage of the hotel incident, but they are very different, Combs claims, from the CNN video that was published. And it includes things that weren't in the CNN video. And that's when Combs says that they retained Mr. McCord, who apparently is a, quote, career law enforcement officer that specializes in forensic analysis of videos. And Combs claims that McCord concluded that the government's videos don't represent the original, the raw surveillance footage, that the CNN video was manipulated, and that there's a lack of metadata to know how exactly it was manipulated. Now, Combs' counsel claims that they were able to get their hands on 4 videos here. So CNN's published video and 3 videos with footage obtained by CNN from 3 single cameras at the hotel. And Combs argues that these videos were not the ones that CNN got from its redacted source, but that CNN paid their source for the videos, copied those files, and then destroyed the original video files they received. Quote, to defense counsel's knowledge, the government has not investigated CNN nor redacted for destroying evidence related to this case during the pendency of the investigation. And actually, there's an accompanying declaration from one of the attorneys from a firm that's representing Combs. Her name is Ana Estevao, and she provides a bit more context on what these videos are. Quote, after multiple phone, Zoom, and email conferrals with DWT, that's the firm that was representing CNN, over the course of several days, DWT eventually admitted that CNN received a video file from a source, the original video file. And again, we don't know who this source is, but it continues that CNN, quote, made a complete copy of that video file, and then the original video file, CNN complied with the subpoena and produced 4 video files. So aside from the video that was published by CNN for the whole world to see and that we all saw, there was also apparently, quote, Exhibit I-2, which is a 6-minute and 13-second clip from the hallway of the Intercontinental. Exhibit I-3, a 2-minute and 15-second clip from the elevator bank at the Intercontinental. Exhibit I-4, a 1-minute and 59-second video of another view of the hallway at the Intercontinental. We don't know ourselves what these videos do or do not show exactly, but it's interesting that there's more footage here, or apparently. And by the way, this lawyer who's making this statement is doing so under penalty of perjury. And she declared, quote, despite knowing of the federal investigation, CNN counsel has represented to myself and Tenny Garagos, that's another one of Combs' lawyers, that they destroyed the original footage they received. We have not received any information in discovery reflecting that the government has investigated CNN's destruction of evidence related to an ongoing federal investigation. Those are big allegations. And in fact, in another filing, another exhibit to be more exact, we have this email from Ana Estevao to Kate Bolger, who represents CNN, an attorney for CNN. And it reads in part, quote, Kate, thank you for the call earlier. Based on our discussion, we now understand that CNN received a video file from a source, the original video file, made a complete copy of that video file, the copy, and as you mentioned for the first time today, deleted the original video file. Now, to be clear, CNN has denied these allegations. They have denied that it altered the video or destroyed the original copy. So we're still trying to figure out what's what right now, and even what that apparent conversation between Estevao and Bolger even was. But I want to get back to Combs.
Now, let me say this. Aubrey says Diddy's defense will bring up Cassie trying to get money from him behind the scenes before she filed the civil lawsuit. Well, absolutely, they're going to bring that up. Absolutely, beloved. They're going to definitely bring that up. In fact, they're going to come for Cassie hard in the paint. Now, on previous broadcasts, I actually explained to them some of the questions that they're going to ask Cassie. Okay, but here's the thing I want you all to pay attention to. Cassie will be painted by the defense as an unindicted co-conspirator. I told you all that months ago, okay? Probably a year ago even. They're going to paint Cassie as an unindicted co-conspirator. And you know, because the thing Okay, sorry, beloveds. I forgot I muted myself. Okay, so let me just go back with what I was saying. Okay, so basically, the defense is going to paint Cassie as a harlot, a charlatan. Okay, they're going to do everything they can. I've told you all in previous broadcasts how they're going to paint Cassie as an unindicted co-conspirator. Aubrey is correct when she says Diddy's defense will bring up Cassie trying to get money from behind the scenes before she filed a civil lawsuit. Yes, they're definitely going to bring that up. They're going to paint her as a gold digger, as she's money hungry, as she wanted to just keep living a lavish lifestyle off of Diddy's dime and all of that. And like I told you all over about a year ago, I believe, that they're also going to paint her as an unindicted co-conspirator. They're going to say that Cassie was complicit in Diddy's crimes. They're going to say that she was a willing participant and that she was not indicted by the state because instead the prosecutors chose to use her testimony to build their case. Okay? That's how they're going to paint this whole thing. And they're going to also say that she was the one who was calling to get the male escorts, the male workers. Cassie has already said in her lawsuit that Diddy told her what kind of men to pick out, what kind of men that he wanted. And the defense is going to probably say, oh, no, Diddy didn't tell her who to pick out. Cassie picked out the men that she wanted to sleep with. Okay? They're also going to bring out the fact that in some of these videos that Cassie has given them, the 9 videos of the freak offs, they're gonna bring to the attention also that Diddy was watching and pleasuring himself while Cassie was the one having relations with the workers in those videos. And they're going to say that she did that because she wanted to. And they're also, I told you, going to be asking the workers who testify, well, was it complicit? You know, was she coerced? They're going to ask those sorts of questions. And some of those workers, it has already been told to me that a couple of those workers have already flipped and said they're going to testify for the defense. Okay? A couple of them have said there were some, it's been reported now that a couple of them are supposed to be testifying for the defense. Okay, with that all being said, remember I told you that if they say that it was not complicit, what they were doing with Cassie, they're essentially admitting to rape. They would be admitting to rape. And who wants to admit to that, even if the state's granted you immunity and for your testimony and said they're not going to charge you for it? Who wants to be sitting in a courtroom full of people, okay, and saying that you did this to this woman and the video's right there for everybody to watch, and then say, no, she wasn't complicit. She was forced to do this. Diddy told us all to do it, whatever. How's that going to work? Okay, that's going to look and sound crazy as far as I'm concerned. But let's continue.
This motion in limine, arguing again that all this video evidence should be excluded. So at one point, as laid out by the defense, apparently the court, meaning the judge overseeing this case, Judge Arun Subramanian, he had advised at a prior hearing about what should be done regarding this video. And apparently he said, quote, slow it down, put it in the right sequence, or provide any other context based on the materials. However, according to the defense, quote, after extensive discussions with Mr. McCourt, however, there are several reasons why all available video files are inaccurate and unreliable and cannot be modified to be accurate. What are those reasons? Well, first, Combs claims that McCourt.
Okay, so Jay Great says if Diddy's attorneys bring her in to say that, he will be admitting guilt and definitely be found guilty. No, that's absolutely not true. Bring her in? Are you talking about Cassie? The defense can't bring Cassie in to say anything. The prosecution brings her in. Now, the defense is going to cross-examine her. Absolutely. They're going to cross-examine her. Okay, so whatever she says for the prosecution, the defense is going to argue against that. Okay? They're going to argue against that. So anything that the defense asks Cassie or anybody else is absolutely going to benefit Diddy. It's not going to be anything that's going to have him found guilty on purpose. Like, they would not do that. So I'm really not sure how you meant for this to be phrased, beloved. Or maybe I confused you with with my explanation. What I'm saying is, the defense is going to paint Cassie as somebody who was complicit. The workers that are going to testify for the defense, they're going to say she was also complicit. Why wouldn't they? Do they want to say that they raped her? So that's what I'm saying. They're going to say she was complicit. That's going to help Diddy. Okay. Now, of course, as I said, the prosecution's going to say that it wasn't, that it was not complicit. These weren't just, people being swingers and switching up and all that. No, that Diddy made her do these things. But, I'm interested to see how the prosecution is going to prove all of this. But see, this is why they need that video. Without that video, the prosecution would have no case, in my opinion. Without the video of Diddy beating the hell out of Cassie, they literally would have no case, and they know it. That's why they fought so hard to get that allowed into evidence, because normally a video like that would be viewed as prejudicial, which is exactly what Diddy's defense team was arguing. Okay, because first of all, you can't charge him for that because it's past the statute of limitations, and that was a state crime, not a federal. But also, so normally they would probably not allow that in as evidence, because if you see that, many people would automatically say, oh yeah, he's guilty, no questions about it. Okay, so that's why they didn't want it in, but it's going to be allowed in, honey. So that's really going to be damaging for Diddy. Okay, Janine says supposedly CNN did speed up the video. Well, I absolutely believe that they did something to the video because an expert said it. We're not just going by Diddy's team of attorneys. An expert, a forensic analyst, already said that they did something to it. So I absolutely believe what he said. I mean, this man's not going to risk his career and livelihood to go in here and lie for Diddy, right? So I absolutely, and then they say they threw away the original. I don't believe that. I don't believe the original was thrown away. So anyway, with that all been said, what I do want to know is they only recently started talking about somebody having a cell phone recording of the same incident. Who the hell recorded that and didn't try to break it up or stop it? Who was standing there recording this on their cell phone? Okay, I would love to know, but let's continue.
Believes the CNN video is significantly sped up, that it doesn't accurately represent human movement, that it inaccurately displays timestamp seconds, including jumping back in time, so it misleads the viewer as to the proper sequence of events. And there is also allegedly missing a considerable amount of footage. And when it comes to the iPhone videos that I mentioned before, Mr. McCourt apparently believes they too distort the events. Quote, the aspect ratio in the iPhone videos differs from the CNN video such that Mr. Combs appears to be stockier and shorter than he appears in the CNN video, causing Mr. Combs to appear more domineering. 2, they inaccurately display timestamp seconds, misleading the viewer about the timing of the events. 3, they do not show the timestamps in the majority of the videos. And 4, they do not depict the entire incident. In other words, the iPhone videos reflect what the person holding the cell phone camera focused on when watching the footage. At times, the iPhone videos zoom in on details like a particular person's shoes, cutting out portions of the events depicted in the CNN videos. Further, because the iPhone videos were created by using a handheld camera to film a static image, the iPhone videos contain doubled images and blurred images, distortive artifacts that are the result of amateur re-recording. So in other words, neither the CNN video nor the iPhone videos accurately depict what allegedly happened in that hotel.
Well, whether or not it accurately depicts it, what we do know is that Diddy beat the hell out of Cassie in that hotel. Okay, we all saw it. Now, does it really matter, the sequence of events? I wouldn't think so. Because even if Cassie hit Diddy, even if she was initially the aggressor, and I'm not saying that she was, I'm speaking hypothetically, even if she were, that's no excuse for Diddy to do what he did. Okay? Nothing is an excuse for Diddy to do what he did. And some people ignorantly were saying that when Cassie ran to the elevators, when she was going to the elevators with that duffel bag, that she had stolen Diddy's money. Ha! You really think Diddy was walking around with a duffel bag full of money? And even if it were a duffel bag full of money, I'm sorry, that still would not explain or give an excuse for him beating the crap out of her like that. He could have just snatched the bag if that's all he wanted. Okay, you see how people try to make excuses for Diddy? This is all crazy. Now, DJ Big Six says, Queen, is this case to have beyond reasonable doubt or preponderance of the evidence? Well, that's a good question, beloved. In criminal cases, you have to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. Okay, preponderance of the evidence is for a civil case, okay, which is much easier to prove. The civil cases are. So with that all being said, let's continue. And here's the thing too. Let's not forget that Cassie said on the night that Diddy beat her in that hotel lobby, they were also having a freak off. So that means that there was at least one other person in the room with them. There may have been more because they didn't always just use one S worker at a time. So with that being said, maybe the S worker is the one who had the cell phone and was recording all of this. I don't know, but I can't wait to find out. Okay, so anyway, there's another update from Inner City Press. Says Judge Subramanian says there is a logistical issue that we have to work out if we seal the transcript. No one, including Mr. Combs, can see it. So what if we leave it in the transcript since the jurors are not identified by name? And then the defense says, let us confer with the government. Okay, so that's the next thing we're waiting on, is to see what the government in fact says. Oh, well, here it is. Okay, didn't have to wait long. Defense says at the sidebar, what was the court going to tell jurors about the level of confidentiality? I ask because if the potential juror believes this would be entirely confidential, that relates to candor. The judge says, I'm not going to lie to the jurors. Okay, now was the defense implying that the judge should lie to the jurors? Is that what he was trying to imply? At the sidebar, what was the court going to tell the jurors about the level of confidentiality? I ask because if the potential jurors believes this would be entirely confidential, that relates to candor. And the judge says he's not going to lie to them. Okay, that's very interesting, because was he implying that the judge should lie to the jurors? Because why would the judge say that? Why did the judge need to say that he's not going to lie to the jurors? This is getting juicy already. Okay, but let's continue.
That's according to Combs. And first, Combs' defense argues that the CNN video and the iPhone videos, they have to be excluded because the government cannot provide sufficient evidence of their authenticity, which is required by the Federal Rules of Evidence, more specifically, Federal Rule of Evidence 901, which requires a party to submit proof that that specific piece of evidence is what it claims to be. You can't just take the prosecution or defense's word for it. So you can do that by having a witness with knowledge testify about it, or an expert witness testify. And here the defense argues that when it comes to the recordings, there is a high burden or standard to authenticate video recordings because they can be altered. They are subject to alteration. They can be subject to distortion. And by the way, video recordings, unlike other pieces of evidence, their argument is, and I think there's a fair point to this, they can have quite an impact on a jury, a very different impact on a jury. They are very, very important and persuasive. Quote, the government has not proffered any competent evidence through which it could authenticate these videos. In the normal course, evidence may be authenticated through such means as testimony of a witness with personal knowledge, evidence that the proffered exhibit has distinctive characteristics demonstrating genuineness, and evidence that the proffered exhibit is the result of a process or system that produces accurate results and showing that it produces an accurate result. But this is not the normal course, and these methods do not apply here. Rather, in the absence of testimony by the editor or someone else with personal knowledge to determine how the videos were edited, admitting the videos would be grossly unfair and potentially highly misleading. And here there are several problems. Like, according to the defense, we don't have any information about the device that was used to generate the CNN videos. And when it comes to the iPhone videos, the defense makes the argument they haven't even had the opportunity to examine that particular iPhone. And you couple that with the allegations that the videos were distorted and altered and changed in terms of speed and frames and depictions of subjects, and that the original files were destroyed. Again, the argument is there's no way to properly authenticate these videos as being true and accurate copies.
Marketers think they can do it all. And as a marketer myself, I know my limitation. Popular Pays enables us to work more.
Next, the defense goes back to the claim that none of the files at issue are the actual originals, even though the defense argues they made a good faith effort to find them. And they also argue that the government's failure to investigate CNN and to not find reliable video and just to rely on what they claim are inaccurate, unreliable duplicates actually calls into question the government's motives here. And moreover, the defense claims the government failed the, quote, best evidence rule. What's that? Well, as Combs lawyers explain, and we learned this very early on in our law school evidence class, you always want to introduce the original evidence for purposes of authentication. But we live in a real world, and we all know that sometimes that is not possible. So a duplicate can be allowed unless there is a genuine question about authenticity. And here, Combs argues, there is certainly such a question. But also they say this: the government's only means of admitting the evidence is Federal Rule of Evidence 1004, which permits the use of a duplicate if all the originals are lost or destroyed, and not by the proponent acting in bad faith, or the original cannot be obtained by any available judicial process. The government's conduct negates admissibility under either prong. It has repeatedly refused to investigate, has not questioned key witnesses regarding the original recordings, and refuses to use available judicial process even to confirm whether the originals still exist. Rather, it has turned a blind eye, hoping that the court will permit it to use far more inflammatory evidence that will unfairly bolster its arguments and prejudice Combs' case. Indeed, at the time CNN destroyed the original footage, it knew about and widely reported on the government's investigation into Combs, yet destroyed evidence anyway. The government has no basis to claim the originals are lost or destroyed because it has not attempted to find out. It has therefore ratified CNN's bad faith, and it should not be rewarded. So basically, Combs' defense is arguing that none of the files are the originals, the duplicates are unreliable, and no amount of editing can fix the problem. And then the defense moves on to another argument, that the videos should be excluded from coming into evidence under Rule 403 of the Rules of Evidence. So we've talked about this before. And this is where the court can exclude evidence if its probative value, its relevance to a particular issue, is substantially outweighed by unfairly prejudicing the jury. And here the defense argues, look, while the government may simply say any alterations to the videos, that just goes to how much the jury should weigh the value or reliability of the tapes, meaning it goes to a question for the jury to consider, but allow it in nonetheless. This isn't a question about whether or not it should be admitted in the first place or not. The defense couldn't disagree more. Quote, the manipulation of the videos was specifically designed to inflame the passions of CNN's viewing audience, and that is what the government is hoping to leverage in this case. The videos are sped up to make the violence look more violent. The sequence is reordered to leave the viewer with the impression that the woman has been dragged back to a hotel room. And the clips delete footage that provides important context, making clear that the events were not as horrific as the government will suggest, although that feels like a little bit of a stretch in my opinion. How do you say it's not horrific? I mean,
okay, yeah, that is a bit of a stretch. Talking about it, they try to make it more violent than it's violent. But the bottom line is it's violence, okay? And it is horrific, all right? And so clearly they're desperate. Now, Lindell says in the rest of the video, he retrieved his bag and she left. This was not a kidnapping as the feds are trying to imply. Okay, well, at the end of the day, the feds are doing everything that they can. Okay, please pay attention. They're doing everything that they can, honey. Okay, so as they should. Okay, because that's exactly what Diddy's defense is going to do. Okay, Janine says CNN should never have destroyed the original. Why did they? Shame on them. You know, they may have destroyed the original because they knew it was edited. Okay, to hide the fact that they edited it. Because if you don't have the original, they just felt like they could lie about it, maybe. I don't know. Okay, Eugene says this case is flawed, but still might give him time. Okay. Nicole says, I smell desperation. Yeah, I smell desperation too, beloved, on both sides. The prosecution is desperate for a win, and so is Diddy. Okay? So is Diddy. Some of the stuff that the prosecution has done in the past few days leading up to the trial is absolutely nefarious in my opinion. But hey, I'm here for it because Diddy, if you've done these things, you need to go down, and that's just what it is. But some things they have done just is crazy to me that they've even been allowed to get away with it, quite frankly. Okay. Joy says, how did CNN get the video? Well, you know, beloved, that's a question we've never been able to answer. But if I had to go out on a limb and guess, I would say that the feds gave it to them. Because remember, initially, I said I don't think the feds would have given it to them. I don't think the feds leaked it because they should know better. They should know better. They could, compromise the case if it was found out that they did such a thing. And so I initially thought that Douglas Wigdorf's office may have done it, but now I think the feds absolutely did it because New York Post has reported that they were given information by an anonymous agent. They said this on several occasions. They said that they had videos of consensual acts or they had videos of freak offs that they couldn't tell if whether or not they were consensual acts. This is what supposedly an anonymous agent told them. There was another time that it was reported in the media that an anonymous agent told them what they retrieved at the residences when they raided Diddy's properties. And so it was obvious to me that these media publications, they wouldn't just be lying on the feds or these agents and saying that you leaked stuff to them. Okay, I don't think. And so that all been said, they probably leaked that video too. And the reason they leaked it, in my opinion, is because they know that they have no case without it. Okay, they could say they have witnesses, but you only have 4 witnesses, or you only have 4 people that are supposed victims. And according to those videos that Cassie gave them, the 9 freak off videos, Diddy's team says it shows consensual acts. Now, maybe it isn't consensual, but it obviously looks consensual. So that could be a big discrepancy. So what do they need to drive home the RICO case? What do they need to drive home the S trafficking and the prostitution? Well, that tape, okay? Diddy beating Cassie like that shows that Cassie had a good reason to fear him. So if he did make her go out and pick out S workers, well, she would have done it 9 times out of 10 because fear of retribution, okay? But let's continue.
And even if it was sped up or slowed down, unless you're saying it was completely doctored and Combs didn't allegedly attack Cassandra Ventura, I'm not sure what that context necessarily is. But again, he's not charged with assault. He's charged with sex trafficking, so something there. But the defense concludes by suggesting that if the prosecution wants to prove that this event happened, rely on testimony of those witnesses who apparently appear in the video.
Okay, so rely on the testimony of the victims who appear in the video. Okay. Now, with that all being said, please keep this in mind. Why did they emphasize rely on the testimony of victims who appear in the video? Okay, Reggie says, I can't wait for the meat and potatoes of this trial. Okay. Aquarius MC says, I agree, Queen. Thank you, beloved. Okay, so now here's a couple of more updates. And let me just say this. Speaking of the last update that I gave you, when the judge said that he wasn't going to lie to the jury, as I thought about it, the judge could have been saying that because maybe the defense wasn't asking him to lie or trying to imply that he lied. Maybe they were trying to suggest that he was going to lie. Okay. And maybe that's why the judge said, I'm not going to lie to the jury. Maybe he was just letting them know, because maybe they thought that's what he was going to do. Not that that's what they were telling him or implying for him to do, if you understand what I'm saying, because he used the word candor. Okay. I ask because if the potential juror believes this, if the potential juror believes this would be entirely confidential, that relates to candor. Judge, I'm not going to lie to the jurors. Yeah, I think he was accusing the judge, basically saying that, oh, so you're going to lie to them? Because candor means to be frank, to be honest. Okay, so if he's saying this relates to candor, he might have been implying that the judge might tell a lie or two. Okay, so the judge was letting him know, I'm not going to lie to them. Okay, so now here's the latest updates. Prospective jurors are brought into the courtroom. The judge then says, this is a criminal case, U.S. versus Sean Combs. I expect the trial to run for approximately 8 weeks. Justice depends on all of you. You've all filled out the long questionnaire. In a few minutes, I'll ask more. They said that questionnaire was long too. Okay, please pay attention. They said it was long. And in fact, the prosecution suggested that it was too long. Okay, and that there were questions being asked that were quite frankly irrelevant. Okay, thank you, Reggie, for your contribution to the channel, beloved. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. Prosecutors criticized the defense's proposed questionnaire as too long and touching on subjects that would be better asked in person by the judge, if at all. They said some of the questions were utterly irrelevant to the ability to serve on a jury. Okay, now in the court filings, Diddy's attorneys argued that prosecutors' proposed questionnaire did not explore at all the prejudices and biases that are central to an effective inquiry to seating a fair jury, nor did they acknowledge the unprecedented and negative media attention they may have been exposed to related to Mr. Combs. Okay, they requested that jurors be questioned about their views regarding sex, drugs, violence, and people with multiple sexual partners. Okay, so they're saying the prosecution didn't even want to get into that, but the prosecution contends that the assault in the video with Cassie being beaten by Diddy, they contend that happened during a freak off. Okay, Combs's lawyers, who tried to convince the judge to exclude it from the trial, argue the footage was nothing more than a glimpse into a complex but decade-long consensual relationship between the two. Well, that beating didn't look like it was consensual. Sorry for the defense. That's not going to fly.
Have them testify, okay? But otherwise, they argue the video should be excluded. Quote, here, where the available video files are not genuine, not accurate, not originals, and it's impossible to make the available video files accurate, none of the inaccurate, unreliable videos should be admitted. Ultimately, if the government has a witness available to testify to the events of March 5th, 2016, such testimony would likely be admissible. However, that testimony and not the inaccurate, prejudicial, distorted footage should be the evidence the jury considers. In conclusion, for the foregoing reasons, Mr. Combs requests that this court hold a hearing and ultimately conclude that none of the available video files of the hotel incident be admitted into evidence at Mr. Combs' upcoming trial. So, will the court hold a hearing this late in the game? I mean, the trial's expected to begin May 5th. Few weeks away, Judge Arun Subramanian just decided against postponing the trial last week, despite objections by the defense regarding other evidence. Will he choose to not include it? Will he agree with Combs? That would be a big blow to the prosecution, as it's not only visual proof of potential sex trafficking and racketeering, pattern of criminal activity, criminal enterprise, all that, but also, if Ventura really is victim one in this case, having that tape come into evidence would support her credibility. Remember, she first alleged that Combs did this to her in her initial November 2023 lawsuit. It was only months later that this tape was published by CNN. And for those out there who were skeptical of her claims, who maybe didn't believe her, you wonder if that tape changed their views, because that tape published by CNN arguably mirrored her description in her lawsuit from months earlier. So will it be excluded, or will Subramanian allow it to come in? And then the defense will be forced to question its reliability or authenticity for the jury, and also simultaneously make the domestic spat argument I mentioned before. At the time of this recording, we couldn't find any ruling from the judge or even a response from the prosecution, but we'll keep an eye out. That's all we have for you right now.
All right, so you all heard that. Very interesting. Now, Queen Kesh says, can't wait till next week. Opening statements, both ends, and the witnesses come. That's when it will get good. Absolutely, honey. We're going to be right here. We're going to be right here tuned in. Now, with that all being said, as we're waiting for the jury selection updates, let's listen to what Harvey Levin says, because, hold on, where's that video? Hold on, beloveds. Because Harvey claims that he has information, okay? Harvey exposes what he knows about Diddy. Okay, so let's get into that. Likes up, everyone, please. Like and share. Thank you in advance.
So the judge ruled Diddy could.
Now, I want you all to keep in mind that you're going to be listening to not only Harvey Levin speaking, but also Mark Garagos, Tina Garagos' father, who now is a part of Diddy's legal team. Okay? As I told you months ago, I knew this was going to happen. Okay, let's get into it.
Wear street clothes in court. What he wears is important because the defense is arguing Diddy led a swingers lifestyle, not a criminal lifestyle. And if you put him in a cardigan sweater like the Brady Bunch, it doesn't work. Well,
So he said that they're going to be arguing that Diddy's a swinger. And if you put Diddy in a cardigan sweater, that's not going to work. So how is he supposed to come in there looking like a swinger? What does a swinger look like? Okay, that's the question. What does a swinger even look like? And here's the thing. Now, what you wear in court when you're on trial, when you're the defendant, is absolutely very important, because I want to point out something to you all. The Menendez brothers. Reggie said so did Hugh Hefner. Okay, absolutely. But here's the thing. With the Menendez brothers, Reggie says Harvey needs to have several seats before Van goes in on him. Okay, so listen, in the case of the Menendez brothers, for example, you all remember when I was covering them being resentenced and all of that, when I was talking about that, I told you all how they were found in the first trial. It was a mistrial. Okay, it was basically a hung jury. And then, but in the first trial, when I showed you all the court video footage, they were wearing cardigan sweaters. Okay, they were wearing sweaters. Okay, they had on like nice little button-down shirts with sweaters on top of them. They wore that, I believe, throughout the entirety of the trial. Okay, so they looked like some nice young men who came from an affluent, lifestyle, and it made them look more innocent, in my opinion. But if you remember, when they went for the second trial, when I showed you footage of that in court, they had on their prison clothes. And let me tell you something, they looked like criminals and they were found guilty. Okay, so it's very important. It is imperative that you dress for how you want to be viewed, even though sometimes that doesn't always help. But, it does play a role. Okay, Tequila said, does a swinger wear pajamas? Diddy should come in here in a smoking jacket. Okay, please pay attention. But let's continue.
Welcome to the Two Angry Men podcast. I'm Harvey Levin.
I'm Mark Garrigus, and do you remember the old expression "waiting for Godot"?
Yeah, I do indeed.
Okay, I'm gonna update it to "waiting for Levin." How often do I have to sit here waiting for you to show up? And I love the fact that you've got Weil kind of warming your seat. I mean, it takes a village to raise Harvey Levin. You ever notice that?
That is out just because.
What if when uncertainty is high, heck, when chaos is high?
Because of that, because of hardship.
Version.
I know.
They're right. Okay. But and your point remains. I mean, that's true. Whether it's the cell phone or the other.
Let me go back just a little bit.
Towards one side or the other. You say, but can you follow the law? I've always thought that's a little simplistic. And the reason for that is they don't know the law. They don't know what the judge is going to say. I mean, obviously, you can talk about the platitude. Can you set this aside and presume somebody is not guilty? It's one of the reasons I always think attorney voir dire is better than court voir dire, in the sense that the attorneys know their case better. The judge who's in there and who may be up to speed on all of the issues still doesn't know what the hot button issues are. The lawyers know that. And I always think that attorney voir dire is better than court voir dire, but that's having said that, it's very rare in federal court.
Well, speaking of things the jury knows about, or prospective jurors, wow. The Cassie video is coming into evidence in this case. And that opens up a whole...
but not the CNN version.
I know.
They're right. Okay. But and your point remains. I mean, that's true, whether it's the cell phone or the other.
I got to tell you, we did a Diddy documentary. We did 4 of them for Tubi, but the last one we did, we assembled a mock jury. And we actually showed them the evidence on both sides. They deliberated. And there were 4 out of the 12 who felt Cassie video, even though it wasn't what he was being tried for, was the beginning, middle, and end for them.
I couldn't agree more. And you give the prosecution props. It's a prosecution by proxy, so to speak. And what do I mean by that? You show that video, and I think you said 4 out of 12. I'd almost estimate.
Well, those are who cop to it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's the old expression: 90% admitted, and the other 10% are lying. But they've taken that video. They, meaning the prosecution, they've recast it. They've said, no, this isn't about domestic violence. This isn't about whatever was going on between the two of them. What it is you look at this to see the kind of coercive effect or the kind of control that he had over Cassie.
Okay, so let's pause for a moment so you all can get the likes up. Okay, let's get the likes up. The likes ain't liking and the math ain't mathing. Let's pause right there. I got time today. Let's get those likes up. All right, please pay attention. The queen wants her likes. All right. That's how you can support the stream for free. All right. Hit the like button, please. Thank you in advance. I'll sit here and wait. Let's at least get the likes up to 250. We got 304 people in the chat. Let's get those likes up to 300 or to 250 at least. Okay, we're at 176. So let's keep it moving. Reggie says, if you don't like what the queen is cooking, exit stage left. Roddy says, Diddy only going to get 5 years with time served. Cassie might be going to jail herself and returning the money. Just my opinion. She was there 10 years. Roddy, if you don't sit down some darn where talking about Cassie. Roddy, if you don't sit all the way down, okay? If you don't have several seats in an empty stadium, sir, Cassie is absolutely not going to jail by any stretch of your imagination or mine, beloved. Okay, but that was cute. That was absolutely cute, okay? I absolutely cannot. Not Cassie's going to jail herself. But she was there 10 years, so let's keep it real. Okay, she absolutely was. She could have left plenty of times as far as I'm concerned. Okay. She could have left plenty of times as far as I'm concerned. But let's not forget, I already told y'all a year and a half ago that Cassie, in my opinion, is just an unindicted co-conspirator. Okay, just like the defense is going to paint her. Okay, because here's the thing. Cassie's not innocent. Okay, Cassie is not absolutely innocent in this. Yes, Diddy beat her behind. He probably made her do some things. At the end of the day, Cassie could have left plenty of times, in my opinion. For example, in 2016, when her mother called the police on Diddy, she didn't even press charges. Why wouldn't you press charges? Your mom was concerned enough to the point that she called the police. Okay. Maybe she was afraid. Okay. But nonetheless, she left in 2018. Okay. She could have left 10 years earlier, as far as I'm concerned. And in fact, Cassie should have left as soon as Diddy started his BS. But you know, here's the thing. I want you all to pay attention. Let us not act like Cassie didn't laugh at Kim Porter. Okay, let's not act like we don't know that it was reported that Cassie had laughed at Kim Porter when Diddy used to do stuff to her, allegedly. Okay? So with that all being said, and also let's not forget that Cassie didn't want to leave in the beginning, okay? Because remember Roger Bonds, Diddy's former bodyguard, who defended Cassie and stepped in between her and Diddy with a squabble. But remember how he said that basically Cassie was upset with him because Diddy had butt dialed her one day by accident. And basically he was having a conversation with Roger Bonds about whom he should choose, Kim Porter or Cassie. And Roger told him, you should choose Kim. She's the mother of your children. She's your day one, basically. And Cassie heard that and was upset with Roger and let Roger know that she knew and that she, in fact, heard that conversation. And I told you all that I believe Diddy butt dialed her on purpose. And that he wanted her to hear Roger say that because Diddy already knew that if he asked the question, Roger's definitely going to say Kim because, of course, Kim is the mother of his children. Okay, so I think Diddy wanted Cassie to hear Roger say that. And why would he want her to hear Roger say that? Because Diddy knew that Cassie was confiding in him. And he wanted Cassie to feel like she couldn't trust Roger. And then therefore she wouldn't be telling him anything. Okay, Diddy is a piece of work. Okay, but yeah, Cassie's not going to jail, beloved. Okay, Joy says, exactly, Queen. Kim didn't deserve Diddy abuse either. Exactly, but she was supposedly laughing about it, okay? Now, Roddy said Diddy should not have given her the money, but his lawyers pressured him, so of course he paid up. If you innocent, you don't pay anybody. Diddy didn't defeat his demons. Oh, well. Well, here's the things, beloved. It was the insurance companies who decided to settle with Cassie. Diddy didn't have a say so. You see, if Diddy had a say so, he would never have paid her. Diddy did not want to pay her. Let's keep that in mind. Okay, because this trial, not the trial, but this case has been going on for over a year and a half now, and we've gone through so much of the court documents that have been filed. I literally have gone through every single one of the cases filed against Diddy, every single one of the motions and petitions and declarations filed by both opposing sides. So at the end of the day, maybe we've forgotten some of the evidence. Okay, maybe we forgot some of it, but at the end of the day, that's why we're reviewing some of this right now. Okay, DJ Big Six says Diddy planted seeds of division. Yes, of course he did. Absolutely, he did. Okay, but back to the insurance company. The insurance company settled. Diddy didn't want to, and Cassie had been in negotiations with Diddy and his team for 6 months, according to them. I think it was for about 6 months, but they didn't come to an agreement because Diddy didn't want to pay. Okay, it's the same thing with Bill Cosby. Do you all remember when Bill Cosby's insurance company paid those women? Now, and here's the thing. I don't agree when people say that if you pay the money, you're guilty. I don't agree with that, because sometimes you pay the money or offer the money because you don't want to be embarrassed. You want to avoid humiliation. It's the same reason, in my opinion, that Shannon Sharp offered the accuser $10 million. Okay, he offered her $10 million, in my opinion, because he didn't want all this stuff coming out. Everything that we've heard about him getting on all fours, him having race play, him just doing all this stuff, whether it's true or not, he didn't want these things said about him. Okay, that's just what I believe. Now, Lindell says she didn't get the high amount of $30 million. That's why they call it an undisclosed amount. No, that's not why they call it that, beloved. We don't know how much she got. So I want you to pay attention to what you just said. You said she didn't get the high amount of $30 million. That's why they call it an undisclosed amount. Beloved, that doesn't even make sense, because if it's undisclosed, how would you have any way of knowing that she did not get the $30 million? Okay, please pay attention. We don't know how much she got. Now, people speculated, most of us speculated that she got 30 million because that's what she was asking for. We don't know what she got. Okay, we don't know what she got. So we can't say that she got or she didn't get the $30 million. Okay, now Reggie says, no, they probably signed an NDA. Are you talking about Cassie? You talking about Cassie probably signed an NDA, beloved? Because here's the thing, when they gave Cassie that money, she didn't have to sign anything. And here's another thing. Remember, I told you all, even if you do sign an NDA, that does not make it to where you can't report a crime. If something was done criminal, if there was a criminal action, okay, then the non-disclosure agreement is absolutely null and void. You cannot silence people from speaking about a crime by simply having them sign an NDA. Okay. Queen Kush says, or Keish says, I believe he did something, if not all by him. His rushing to pay the next day 30 million, a lot even for billionaires. She knows where the skeletons are buried. Queen Keish, again, I just said this. Let me reiterate. Diddy didn't rush to pay her. Diddy did not want to pay her. I did a video some time ago where I explained where an attorney broke it all down. The insurance companies paid, okay, not Diddy. Okay, right, it says $30 million is barely a dent to someone who was almost a billionaire. Right, I agree. Okay, so let's continue.
And that you can now believe that he would be a violent person. It really, to my mind, is character assassination. I mean, I don't think they're going to run away from the fact that Sean has, I've known Sean for a long time. He has a violent temper. And especially, I think, when you combine it with kind of the drug use. but that isn't what he's charged with. As you said, how do you get over that when the jurors may shut down once they've seen the video?
Yeah. What do you know? What is there a material difference between the CNN video and the video the prosecutors have?
Yes, I do. I do actually know that.
What's the difference?
If you clearly what has happened in the CNN video, which if you take a look at some of the filings, so I'm not talking about anything that's not in the public filings. In the public filings, it appears that not only has CNN destroyed what they got as the original, but it's not in sequence, meaning it was spliced and it was put through some various iterations on the editing software, which to me, and you and I discussed this maybe a month ago, 2 months ago, should have kept it out. And it actually, and remember people, if you kind of look at the comments down below the podcast, people were saying that's ridiculous, that's ridiculous. By the way, the prosecution is the one who conceded that they're not putting in the CNN version. This is not the CNN version.
How does it change? How does it change the case for the prosecution or the defense based on the original?
I think that the defense has said in some of the bail hearings and has alluded to in some of the filings.
Queen Keish says, I didn't hear about no insurance company paying. Why didn't insurance company pay the other people in the civil lawsuit? Why just her? Well, because she's the first one who came out. When they come out and pay like that, it's hoping that that's just the end of it. Okay? That's why they came out and paid her, in my opinion. I mean, I can't say 100% why they did it. I really haven't spoken to the insurance company, okay? I don't even know who the insurance company is, beloved. But at the end of the day, one would have to think that they likely did it to avoid what's going on right now, okay? And because remember, the insurance company worked at the behest of Diddy and his companies, those entities. And that in Cassie's lawsuit, she didn't just sue Diddy, she sued his companies. So if she sued his companies, the companies always have insurance. Okay, so when something like this arises, they're not going to get the money from the defendant, from the individual. They're going to get the money from the companies. Okay, that's why they pay for insurance for the companies. But let's continue.
That fight between Cassie and Sean was not over anything sexual related.
It's over,
I think
over
it
the cell phone.
changes it dramatically.
Over a cell phone.
Exactly. You got it. I mean, and you take a look at this, you slow it down, you take a look, and you're going to see that. And that really casts a different, I think, perspective on what was going on there.
Roddy says, I hope regular people like us, like most of us, pay attention as to how insurance is an asset protections to keep people from eating your wealth. Exactly. You see, for those of you who don't know, when you file an LLC, okay, you're definitely going to have insurance. And that way, because if someone sues you for whatever, the insurance is on the line. The insurance company's on the line. If you're a sole proprietor and you get sued, you have to pay out of your own pocket, out of your own bank account. Okay, that's the difference.
Look, nobody's justifying the hitting or the striking or the violence, but the fact remains the prosecution's the one who wants to reinterpret what that video is. They're the ones who are saying this is about sex or freak-offs or wild king nights, whatever you want to call what was going on in the privacy of their own bedroom. And the defense is going to say, no, that's not what it's about. Have you ever had a situation where your significant other took your cell phone? And does that take you from 0 to 60 really quick?
So I want to see if I understand this properly. So it came out this week that the prosecution offered the defense a plea bargain, which the defense rejected. My understanding of this, and I have a feeling you're going to correct me, but I'm going to try based on what I think I know, is that it's not uncommon. In fact, it's common for prosecutors to offer a plea deal. And it's not so much that they want to avoid trial. It's that if the defense doesn't actually come forward and ask for one, and the client gets convicted, One of the arguments on appeal is, well, my lawyer was incompetent because he should have asked for a plea deal and didn't get one. And that prosecutors often offer it, and they're not really offering any kind of a great deal. It's basically, what they would get if they would have been convicted. But it kind of covers themselves just to make sure that the case doesn't get reversed. Do I at all have that right?
I'm the first to criticize you when you're wrong, and I'll be the first to applaud you when you're right. I interpreted this as a prophylactic measure in order to insulate if there's a conviction, an ineffective assistance of counsel claim that the defense never tried to negotiate a plea, which is often, if you get convicted in federal court, state court as well, and you say I relied on my lawyer, the lawyer didn't advise me as to the downside of going to trial and never tried to negotiate a plea bargain, that could get some traction with an appellate court.
Okay, I want you all to please pay attention right there to what Attorney Mark Garagos is saying, because I absolutely told you all that. Okay, I've been telling you all for weeks all of the different elements going on here, all of the different motions and petitions filed, how Diddy and his team are gathering receipts just in case he gets convicted, which likely he will, even though I don't think he's going to get a lot of time like R. Kelly. If Diddy's convicted, they would likely try to give him like 4 years, okay, plus time served, like I already told you all a myriad of times. That's just my opinion. But I did also tell you that they're setting the stage to take this back to trial on appeal, okay? So Mark Garagos is basically saying the same thing, now, right? That this is what they're setting the stage for. And I also specifically said what Mark Garagos. I also specifically told you the same thing he just said. I said that Diddy could argue ineffective counsel. Okay, he could argue ineffective counsel. I also told you that if they have a person testifying who has nothing to do with the criminal trial or the criminal case, like they're not an accuser, but they just want to come in and testify, say, for example, they had a civil suit against Diddy, or, for example, they were assaulted, previously or whatever, that if that happens, then they can absolutely get a mistrial, because that's how Harvey Weinstein is on trial right now, because he got a mistrial for that very same reason. And what did I tell you that's called? Who remembers what I told you that is called when that happens? Okay, Joy says, which Diddy head is the best, left or right? Well, only one of those is Diddy's head, actually. This other guy, I believe he's Haitian. That's not Diddy. Y'all, I know that looks like Diddy, that like his evil twin, but that's not Diddy. Look, Diddy has a mole under his eye. This guy's nose is completely different. Okay, the eyes are different. The eyebrows, even though the eyebrows are kind of similar, but that's not Diddy. Okay, so Lindell asks, we still have 0 minors. Where are they? Where there are no minors because there's no charges for that. Okay, the people who claim they were minors when Diddy did things to them allegedly, those people filed civil claims. Okay, those people filed civil claims. They did not file any criminal cases or causes of actions against Diddy, nor did the state pick up, or nor did the feds pick up any of that stuff. Okay, Jay Great's talking about Phil Robertson. Okay, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Let's talk about it. You said he was unalived last week. Well, he actually died. He had a private battle with cancer. And I didn't report on it because I didn't want the conspiracy theories to start. That, oh, he got killed and this, that, and the third. No, he died. He died due to cancer. Okay, let me just read you all one of the reports. DJ Big Six said muddy in the waters. Absolutely. We already know they've been doing that this entire time. Muddy in the waters with people like Adria English, okay, Lamisha Fuller, all of these people who I interviewed, and these people that were telling all these lies, like Courtney Burgess. Y'all remember him with his lying arts? Okay, I told y'all he was a liar who lies. I told you Adria English was a liar who lies. I'm the first one that exposed both of them. I'm also the first one who exposed Chris Todd, the one who wrote that fake Rs. Kim Porter memoir that some people foolishly tried to put off as being authentic just so they could get clicks and views. Okay, the Inkwell says a doppelganger. That's exactly what he is, beloved. Okay, that crazy bitch Eric said Courtney be lying. Yeah, we knew he was lying, but then pay attention. the people who love to lie, I'm not going to call their names. It's one specific person. You all know who I'm talking about. But this person tried to confirm that Courtney Burgess was telling the truth, and because he was called in to testify before the grand jury. Now, that was just ignorant of her, because at the end of the day, just because you're called to testify in front of the grand jury does not mean that you've told anything that was truthful. And in fact, Diddy is now suing that person and his nefarious lawyer, whom I also told you, you heard it here first, that she was shady as hell, and I felt like she was a liar. And she is. And Diddy's now suing her for defamation. And I also pointed out to you all when she said something about, oh, she saw one of the freak off tapes and there was a very high profile person recorded, and she could tell that they didn't know that they were being recorded. I told you all that she was likely lying. Okay. And then I said, even if she's telling the truth, what kind of lawyer is trying to help somebody shop a tape that should be used as evidence in a criminal trial? So I already knew she was full of crap. Okay. Now she's getting sued to boot. Okay. But so let's talk about former Bad Boy executive Phil Robinson. And he died from this private battle he was having with cancer. And this was confirmed by Willie D. Okay, Willie D had inside information, I do believe, and as well as it was confirmed by fellow industry vet Sylvia Shad, okay, who posted about him on her Instagram. Okay, so anyway, former executive at Bad Boy Phil Robinson died last week following a private battle with cancer. The news was confirmed by fellow industry vet Sylvia Shad on who mourned him. Whatever on Instagram. She says, my friend, this is what she posted. My friend left. He left a beautiful imprint of his best self, the love of his life. Okay, Sophie, the love of his life. The greatest gift he offered is his legacy, or the greatest gift he offered to his legacy. It's been hard for him. I've watched by his bedside defeat every single obstacle in life. He's the strongest man I have ever known. I've seen it with my own eyes. I know of no other man who has. I can finally say, I'm not telling your business. He has no more business. His job is done. God received my best friend's soul yesterday evening. Life will never be the same without you. Okay. Robinson was a highly influential executive at Bad Boy in the late 90s, early 2000s. While not a public figure like embattled Bad Boy rapper and founder CEO Sean Diddy Combs, Robinson was renowned within the music industry for his sharp business acumen, ability to spot and nurture talent, and dedication to supporting artists behind the scenes. He played a pivotal role in shaping the sound and success of Bad Boy Records, working closely with major acts like the Notorious B.I.G., Faith Evans, Mary J. Blige, and 112. He was known for guiding young artists through the complexities of the music business, offering mentorship and tough love when needed, and helping build lasting careers. His influence extended beyond Bad Boy with roles at Southpaw Entertainment and Magic Johnson Enterprises. Robinson was described by his peers as a visionary and a mentor, someone whose impact was deeply felt, even if his name wasn't widely recognized by the general public. Shan suggested that Robinson had something incredibly important to talk about to her prior to his death, but he never got the chance. She says, as I type this, tears are rolling down my face, and I hear your voice. We were going to have lunch at the Beverly Hills Hotel this week and talk about it. He left me with the dangling in thought of his last biggest feat yet. No man can touch this. No man can touch this, Seal. You are the only person who I trust to carry this one. I have an idea of what he wanted to discuss with me, and I don't know what to do with that. I love you. We tell each other all the time. We are of the same cloth. Philly Rob, you're the greatest. Ghetto Boys Willie D paid tribute on YouTube, praising Robinson for fully caring about his artist. He said, this dude was something special. Big loss. Big loss. Okay, so condolences to his family, friends, and loved ones. But yeah, like I said, I didn't report on that because I didn't want to hear the conspiracy theories that people are going to come up with. I don't know what he was going to tell her. Now, he could have been telling her something nefarious about Diddy. Who knows? But now, sadly, we'll never know. And he was struggling with cancer. Okay. Now, Jay Great, I believe you said that he was charged with something or accused of something. No, he wasn't. And I believe that you have likely mistaken him with former Bad Boy president Harve Pierre. Okay. Harv Pierre was the one that was implicated in Diddy's shenanigans. He was accused in one of the lawsuits, but Phil Robinson was never. His name was never brought up in anything nefarious. Okay, so let's make sure we get the names correct because we don't want to disparage an innocent person who had nothing to do with Diddy's nefarious shenanigans.
When they're looking at the record.
So let's talk about the lawyers. So the prosecution now, we know, it just came out today, that they have 5 lawyers on the team, all of whom are 6?
6.
Now, the ones I know of 5, all women. Is the 6th a woman?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
6 women, all white. All white.
Correct. That's my understanding. I've only seen a couple of them, or know of a couple of them, but my understanding is you got a 6-pack of white women.
That's not coincidental.
It's very interesting to me. But when prosecutors try to get too cute, you referenced O.J. Simpson, sometimes it comes back and backfires on you.
How does this backfire? How could this backfire?
I want you all to listen what Mark Garagos is going to say and see if he says what I've already said, because I already told you all that some of this ish that the prosecution is doing is absolutely going to backfire on them, okay, at the end of the day. And this is what Diddy's going to use. If he is convicted, he's going to use any of it that they have done that's nefarious, right? He's going to use it for his appeal. Jay Gray says, Queen, you're correct. Harv Pierre, my mistake. Oh, it's no problem, beloved. I just wanted to make sure you knew that. Yeah, because Harv Pierre, as a matter of fact, where the hell is he all of a sudden? And where is Aaron Hall and Justin Combs? Are they still missing in action? Inquiring Minds wants to know.
Because I have an opinion about it, but what do you think?
Well, I can see it in both directions. I can say, here you have a situation where there is a prosecution. Obviously, Sean is black. You've got 3 witnesses who are women of, or at least 5 women of presumably a majority of them of color. We know the name of one. You have a situation, I'm assuming the others are not exclusively white. I don't want to paint too broad of a brush, but the most prominent of them is Cassie, who is already it's out there publicly and is not using a pseudonym. So you have that kind of racial image, but I'm not.
I hate to be the bearer of bad news, Mr. Mark Garagos, but Cassie is not a white woman, beloved. Cassie is black and Latina or something like that. Okay. Cassie's not white.
Yeah, well, Johnny was right. I mean, Johnny was but people forget that Johnny, before OJ, was one of the most accomplished civil rights lawyers. You remember this because you were here in LA. Johnny was not a criminal defense lawyer before OJ by reputation. He was a civil rights lawyer. He pursued 1983 actions and very successfully against the then LAPD, which was viewed in the community as a conquering, invading force.
People who aren't lawyers, Mark, slow it down. 1983 is essentially police officers who brutalize people under the color of law. I mean, that's kind of what we're talking about. But back to this.
Correct.
So,
by the way, don't underestimate the audience here. I read the comments on occasion.
I get it, but not everybody. I know, just, come on. So the way I was looking at this was that, look, they're all really accomplished lawyers. And Maureen Comey, who is James Comey's daughter, the former FBI director, I hear she is just a fierce prosecutor. She did Ghislaine Maxwell. She's a formidable force. So they're all top notch. But the way I kind of saw this was, on the one hand, women who are alleged victims might be more comfortable talking to women. And, it might be more effective, in examining them on the stand. It might connect more with the jury. But on the downside, that you don't want to make it look like you're prosecuting a cause, because some people may say, well, wait a minute, an individual is being prosecuted and we're not going to bring the individual down because of a cause. So it could work. It's sort of a double-edged sword, the way I see it.
It is. You mentioned Maureen Comey, and I don't know her, but I've talked to people who've tried cases against her, and I often will say the true test of a prosecutor, in my mind, as to whether they've got game or not, is not on their ability to do an opening, not even on their ability to cross-examine. I think the true test of a prosecutor is whether or not on the rebuttal argument of a closing, whether they've got game. And by all accounts, that is Maureen Comey's strong suit, is the rebuttal on the closing. So if I had to bet, I will bet that she may not do the opening, she may not do the first kind of argument in the closing, but she will do the rebuttal, because I'm told in the Maxwell case that she was just devastating. And personally, I remember a case that I tried, I don't know, 25 years ago with a lawyer who I subsequently became very friendly with. And I think he would agree with me. I didn't think he was, distinguished himself during the trial, but he gave a rebuttal argument that I sat there and listened to. And by the way, if you're a defense lawyer, listening to the rebuttal argument is one of the hardest things you ever have to do, is just listen to somebody kick you and your client's ass all around the courtroom. That guy did a job that I can't remember a better rebuttal by a prosecutor. And I knew right then and there that any chance I had evaporated because of the way that he did the rebuttal argument. That's really what separates the premier prosecutor from somebody who's just running through the motions.
So on the defense side, our recon, which I know is good on this, I don't know, maybe 2-3 weeks ago, they were on the hunt for a female Black lawyer.
Yeah, they were on the hunt for a female Black lawyer, and that was specifically for optics. Okay, because if you're being accused by women of such things, then they want to have a woman on his side, okay, for the defense. Now we have another report, another update from Inner City Press. Okay, so Agna Philo says, in his questionnaire, he says the defendant probably was engaged in this. The judge then says he could still be fair. Okay, the judge said he could still be fair. I will overrule you. You can, of course, use a peremptory on him. Bring in the next juror. Okay, then the judge says, you've reviewed the list. Any you recognize? A juror who's a female speaks softly. She's juror 133. The judge says, a celebrity. Could you be fair? The juror replies, yes. I know there are a lot of celebrities on this list. Judge says, put them to the side. And the places? The juror says, I don't know them. Okay, so basically, remember I told you all about the questions they're going to ask. They want to know things like, could you be fair if it's a celebrity that's widely known? Are you a fan of hip hop? Because that will give them insight as to whether or not these people are fans of Diddy's or whatever, that they may be biased in his favor or what have you. Okay, so with that all being said, okay, we'll see what comes up next, but let's keep listening.
And they really, really wanted to get a female Black lawyer. I think for kind of obvious reasons. They don't have that. And the trial starts Monday. What happened?
I'm not so sure. I mean,
I'm so sure.
I don't know that you're right. I would have your staff check Pacer.
I don't need my staff to. This was a me thing.
Okay. Well, I'm telling you, I'm not so sure that you're right. I'll leave it at that.
I know
I'm not gonna speak out of school, but I've heard very strong rumors.
Okay.
I'll leave it at that. But I want to go back to one thing. As you've got a pretty good sources virtually. In fact, you surprise me sometimes with some of the stuff you seem to know or the information that you get. Do you still think that, because there is this public perception, that there are celebrity sex tapes involved in this case?
No.
Do you still think that there are minors involved in this case?
I'm certain no.
Okay, so you all heard that. Let's keep listening.
Okay.
And again, when you say this case, we're talking the criminal case.
The criminal case.
In the
correct.
criminal,
I know that.
in the criminal case,
the,
in the criminal case,
right.
no.
And does that? Isn't that, to my mind, that's one of the bigger hurdles in selecting a jury this coming week, is that there is, at least anecdotally, when I talk to people, they have that opinion, strongly held opinion, that there's celebrity sex tapes, that they've kind of conflated Epstein, and you mentioned Ghislaine Maxwell and all of these things into Diddy. There's this idea that somehow this is Epstein redux or something. Do you get that?
I know that's true, but I completely disagree with the insinuation that that's an obstacle for the defense. I think it's a huge opportunity for the defense, because what happens is, if people go into a trial believing the firepower on the prosecution is so strong, I mean, let's say on a scale of 1 to 100, it's a 95, that it's so strong, but it goes down to an 88. That helps the defense, because everybody goes in thinking, wow, they're going to prove this, and they're going to prove this, and they're going to prove this, and all of a sudden, none of it's there. I think that actually helps the defense, because people's expectations aren't met.
Well,
why is Amazon paying me $63,000 a month? Well, I didn't make this kind of money selling yoga.
I would agree with you if that is post-jury selection. The problem, I think, is that if you have people who say, I can't be fair, I can't give this guy the presumption of innocence because of everything I've heard, and the universe of everything they've heard includes this idea that there's celebrity sex tapes and these kind of powerful people that are pulling the strings, or there's minors involved, and that has so colored my judgment that I can't be fair, then you've lost a whole segment.
You've won them. No, in a way, you've won them, because you want people who say, I can't be fair because I know there are celebrity sex tapes and there are minors and there's this and that. You want those people because they think that's what it's about. And then all of a sudden, when they hear it's not, those are the people more likely to change their minds than those who have an opinion who never thought of that.
And I would agree with you if there was attorney voir dire. If somebody says, I can't be fair, and the attorney saying, well, why is that? Not just asking, can you follow the law, but saying, what is it? And they say, well, I've heard about minors and I can never be fair. And I've said, what if I told you to assume that there are no minors here, that you're never going to hear any evidence about minors? What about then? What about if I told you there are no celebrities, this was all consensual activity with girlfriends? What about then? Could you be fair? I get that if you could do attorney voir dire. What scares me, if I'm on the defense team, is if the judge is doing it, there's no knock on the judge. He doesn't know or hasn't done and it's not his bailiwick to have done all of the research going into it as to what colors people's perceptions. People have, I think you would agree with this, somebody's got a completely different view on consensual sex in the privacy of your hotel room.
Okay, Queen Cash says there's no tunnels. I don't believe that. Well, there are tunnels. We've seen the tunnels. I've shown footage of the tunnels. And for those of you that have been following my channel, you know that I showed you the blueprint to Diddy's one-star island mansion, okay, where it has a tunnel 4 miles long going to the Playboy Mansion. Okay, so yes, there's absolutely tunnels. DJ Big Six remembers, he said those tunnels would definitely link to the Playboy Mansion. Hugh Hefner. Exactly. Funny thing is, Hugh Hefner never was charged with anything wrong. Okay, please pay attention. He had the complexion for the protection. Okay, Janine says minors will come next trial. Honey, there's not going to be a next trial. Oh, you mean if Diddy has a retrial? Because if this is like a hung jury or mistrial or whatever? Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so, because first of all, they don't have any proof of the minors. Those are allegations in civil lawsuits, okay? Please pay attention. There's allegations in civil lawsuits, that have not been confirmed. And also in 2011, the feds spoke with James Rosemond, aka Jimmy Henchman. I did a whole video about this. If you missed it, please check it out. Where they were asking him in 2011, was Diddy messing with minors? Okay, minor boys. And Jimmy wouldn't tell them anything. Okay, so please pay attention. All right. DJ Big Six said, Queen be connecting the dots. Thank you, beloved. I appreciate you.
As opposed to even if it were consensual sex with minors, which can never be consent because you've got a minor, or if it was a celebrity and the perception is you're trying to suppress that.
Right. Is this just Judge Verdier?
Yes, that's my understanding.
So lawyers can't participate at all?
They participate in the sense that there's a give and take, and the judges talked about that on the record. But it's not going to be, and this is one of the things I generally fight for in my cases, is I want attorney voir dire, even if it's for a limited number of minutes, so that I can engage. And the argument against it, if you will, the prosecutors always say is, no, you're just trying to shape the opinion. You're trying to get them to prejudge. I'm not trying to do that. Jury selection, the big misnomer about jury selection, it's not you're trying to select. You're trying to deselect. You're trying to get rid of people who have an agenda or stealth.
So in terms of a case that's a candidate for jury sequestration, this feels like one. But God, on top of all of the other things, finding jurors who would agree to that.
Okay, D Hood Reeler says tunnels is linked to the Playboy Mansion in California. From what I heard, is the Playboy Mansion in California. You're absolutely right, beloved. Thank you for correcting me. I don't know what I was thinking. Yes, the Playboy Mansion is in California. I showed you all the video where the guy was outside. Remember that guy who said he was a psychic medium and he was talking about he could feel the nefarious energy and all of that? It absolutely is in California, not One Star Island. My correction. Okay, but like I said, I showed you all the blueprint, and it literally showed that it goes 4 miles to the Playboy Mansion. And also I showed you all the video of the previous owner, Warren Beatty. Okay, remember Warren Beatty, I showed you an old video clip of him being interviewed because they were asking him decades ago, is there tunnels under your home that connect to the Playboy Mansion? And he said, well, he didn't say yes or no. He basically said, well, if there were, that would cost billions of dollars. Sir, please sit down. It would not cost billions of dollars to build those tunnels under your mansion. Okay, the mansion that he lived in, that Diddy bought, didn't even cost $1 billion. So that was his way of gaslighting and deflecting, as far as I'm concerned. He didn't say no. And like I said, we saw the blueprints. Okay, but let's continue. And again, D Hood Reeler, thank you for correcting me, beloved. Okay, I appreciate you.
Seems almost impossible. But is it something that the defense would want? I mean, at least even in theory, to make sure they're not getting, information from the media, because it's going to be almost unavoidable.
The defense, if they know what they're doing, should always want sequestration, because you're going to have so much, especially in the case where there's no cameras in the courtroom. If you have no cameras in the courtroom and no sequestration, what ends up happening is you get second and third hand accounts as to what's happening in the courtroom. It depends on where you are. That gets into the ether, and that affects the jurors. I remember, and by the way, to your point about the jurors not wanting it,
Queen Key says, why can't nobody have opinion here? I don't have to agree with the tunnel stuff, but y'all don't believe minors. Okay. Beloved, nobody said you couldn't have an opinion. Who's going against your opinion? Okay, you asked a question and I answered it. So don't get mad because the answer I gave doesn't go along with your narrative. You asked, quite frankly, about the minors. And I told you that they never substantiated any information about the minors. The minors are mentioned in civil lawsuits, beloved. This is a criminal trial proceeding. So the civil lawsuit has nothing to do with it. Also, I said in 2011, they did suspect that Diddy was messing around with minors, which is why they got James Rosemond and they sat down and talked to him and tried to get him to, to admit or whatever that Diddy was doing these things, and he wouldn't tell them anything. Okay. So you can absolutely have an opinion. And you said we don't agree, or you said you don't agree with the tunnel stuff, but y'all don't believe minors. Nobody said we didn't believe minors. Where are you getting this from? Where are you getting this from? We never said we didn't believe there was minors. I just simply told you the facts of the case. What we believe and what's actually the facts are two different things. Like I've told you all a myriad of times, the rest of you, I've told you that as a police officer told me decades ago, about 2 decades ago, you know, that it's not what you know, it's what you can prove. So they've not proven anything about the minors. Okay, no one said they didn't believe it. All right, but let's continue.
I remember picking a jury in one case, and one of the jurors was an older man back at the time, probably my age now, who raised his hand and said, "Is this jury going to be sequestered?" And the judge said, "Oh, no, don't worry about that." He goes, "Actually, I was hoping it would be." He wanted to
Get away from it.
He busted up the courtroom.
That is
Okay, so for anybody who doesn't know, let me explain to you what a sequestered jury is. A sequestered jury is basically the jury that is isolated from the public and outside influences. They're not supposed to listen to the radio, social media, watch it on TV, or any of those things. Okay, typically during a trial or deliberations, they're not supposed to do any of those things because this is supposed to ensure that they have impartiality. Okay, so the isolation keeps, you know, it usually involves keeping the jurors together at a hotel or somewhere like that, okay, and restricts their contact with the outside world, quite frankly. Okay, so there's that. And the purpose of this, for anybody that has a question, is to protect jurors from potential biases and influences that affect their verdict. Okay, you don't want them being biased or whatever. You want them to be able to go by the facts, not their feelings, because many people go by their feelings, as I can see some people are clearly doing in the chat. Okay, now Queen Keish wants to know what happened with Allie Carter. Thought she was a victim and went through the tunnels. Allie Carter is a liar who lies. Okay, now you may not want to hear that, but it has already been proven, I covered that as well, that Allie Carter is a liar who lies. Okay, she's just doing it for clicks and views. If she really had been trafficked or any of the things that she alleges, seeing celebrities there, including presidents and whatnot, why didn't she go to the police? Okay, I know she probably told y'all she went to the police, but where's the police report? Where's the copies of it? The only thing she ever showed was an affidavit of truth, and anybody can write that. You don't have to have legal counsel to do so. You don't even have to go to the police to do so. You can write it yourself. So Allie Carter was lying. Okay, again, that's why they don't have any proof of minors.
hysterical. That's really funny. Oh God. Well, okay. I haven't read anything in any of the filings so far that anybody's asking for. Do you think the defense is going to ask for that next week?
I don't know, and I haven't read. I haven't read it. If I were the defense, I would. I just don't think anytime. You have a case going on right now where Alan Jackson, who's a friend, in full disclosure, is trying Karen Reed in there. Now that case, I wouldn't feel that strongly about sequestration
because it's being televised.
It's being televised. You can see what's happening. When it's being televised, the need for sequestration, I think, is diminished because it's not being filtered. I often have said, Scott Peterson, the biggest mistake I ever made was kind of rolling over and not letting it be televised, because you had the filter of people who were not in the courtroom reading stuff or hearing stuff, and then it got into the ether, so to speak.
Speaking of Scott Peterson, I remember reading somewhere just a few days ago that Scott Peterson, that the Innocence Project was supposedly working with him, saying that he didn't do it. And I'm like, what in the hell? Now, I love the Innocence Project and how they help the people that are not actually guilty, who've been, in fact, wrongly convicted. In many cases, it's people who look like me. But what are they talking about? That Scott Peterson didn't do it? I beg to differ. I'm going to have to research that further, because I saw a headline about that. I didn't really get a chance to investigate, but I intend to. Now, Lindell says Allie Carter is a big liar. This is what social media has done to people's minds. Absolutely.
So what do you think? This is fascinating. Do you think they'll ask for that?
No, I don't. I just think that I think that's too late because
why? Well,
if
then
they
why
were
wouldn't
gonna-
they? Because what you're saying makes a lot of sense. And look, the public sentiment is against Diddy. So, given the landscape and given social media, especially, why wouldn't they?
Well, I think that what the time to ask for it is if you get into the jury selection this coming week, and it turns out that you really can't get a fair jury, that you've got that problem. The judge then has tools in his toolbox to use, one of which is change of venue. Well, that's not going to help. Where are you going to send it? It's not going to go anywhere.
Right.
I mean, I remember a judge just told me, Mr. Garagos, where do you want me to send this case? Into a space capsule to orbit the Earth? So that's not going to work. Another is a continuance. Well, you have
Now I want you all to pay attention because Mark Garagos just said something else that I already told you. When a request of venue, I told you there's no way that would work because this story is so huge. It is literally the trial of the century, and this has gotten global attention. So there's nowhere that you could probably go except for some remote island where there's people who have not yet been civilized or whatever. But other than that, where are you going to go where people haven't heard about this case? It's impossible. Okay, at least in my opinion.
have to get the defendant to agree to that, and that's not likely, especially when you've gone through all this effort. If you get to the point where the judge is at least himself questioning whether or not the defendant can get a fair trial, then I would say at that point the defense probably should say,
I don't understand
Judge,
that. I don't understand that because, I mean, the horse is out of the barn. We know what the publicity is. I mean, they've seen this for a year now. So everybody knows the level of publicity in this case. So the judge isn't going to be surprised. The judge knows exactly what's going on right now already.
Well, except the problem is under the law, almost all of that calculus by a judge is done. The default is wait till jury selection, that we can ferret this out. We can remedy it in jury selection. And so you're always going to have that fallback. So I'm saying if you get to jury selection and it still is kind of a crazy prejudgment rate, that's when you would ask or suggest, Judge, all of your other tools are useless here. You've got to take the option of sequestration, which then brings up the other issue: is then do you lose people because they don't?
Of course you do. Of course you do. At a 2-month trial during the summer.
Yeah.
Of course you do. Right.
Unless you've got the old man who raises his hand.
Unless you got the old man, and I'm not sure. Well, maybe you do want the old man.
Yeah. Exactly.
So finally, a lot of people think this is silly, and I don't at all. So the judge ruled this week that Diddy could wear street clothes in court. And, a lot of people say, well, not a big deal. Well, obviously, if he came in jail issue, that basically says guilty. And, I think it even could be grounds. It could be reversible error, I think, to some extent, because it really is, it really paints a picture going in. So, we've seen it with O.J. Simpson. We've seen it with the Menendez brothers. We've seen it with everybody. Scott Peterson, they wear street clothes. That's important, obviously.
Okay, so please pay attention. Harvey just referenced the Menendez boys just as I did. Okay, I showed you all how it really did make an impact, them wearing the street clothes versus them wearing their prison, their jail issued attire. Okay, or their prison issued attire. Okay, so Grace says Diddy hired Brian Steele because Steele and Trump have the same lawyer. Okay, so Diddy is making political connections to ask for a presidential pardon. Well, some people have speculated that, beloved, and Diddy can ask for a presidential pardon all he wants, but I guarantee you he's not going to get one, okay? He is not going to get one, and I've already done a video explaining to you why, because I know Trump very well, as should all of you, because I've been going in on Trump for how long? So with that all being said, Diddy has called Trump a racist, even though they were friends. Diddy has had Trump at some of his parties, allegedly. We've seen pictures of them together. It did look like they were partying. So with that all being said, Diddy called Trump racist and talked a bunch of trash about Trump. And we already know that Trump is very unforgiving, and that, in fact, the main thing that he likes to do is issue out revenge. Okay? So do you really think he's going to give Diddy a pardon, even if Diddy asks? That'll never happen. Okay, that'll never happen, as far as I'm concerned.
And, you know, what Leslie Abramson did in the first Menendez trial, putting them in sweaters, I thought was brilliant. I thought it was brilliant because you're trying to cast them against the charge. And she did it really effectively. And I know it sounds silly. Those sweaters worked.
Okay, please pay attention, honey. That's how you know the queen knows what she's talking about, because Harvey is a lawyer himself. Okay, he said the sweaters worked, and they absolutely did. Okay, just like I told you, they worked like a charm, because with the sweaters, they looked innocent. Okay, they look like there's no way they went in that house and shot up those people just being malicious and low down and dirty. So the jury was likely thinking if they did do it, which they clearly did, they must have been abused. Maybe their father did something nefarious to them or whatever. Okay. So with that all being said, Grace said, yes, you're speaking on Diddy's negative comments about Trump. Absolutely, beloved. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. But let's keep listening. Now we're almost done with this. I'm going to check for any more updates.
I mean, it really worked for a jury to juxtapose looking at these two guys against the crime that they committed. It was hard to reconcile. So it's important. In this case, and I know this is going to sound crazy to you and you're going to laugh at me, but I think what he wears is important because the defense is arguing here that Diddy led a swingers lifestyle, not a criminal lifestyle. And if you put him in a cardigan sweater like the Brady Bunch.
Not the Brady Bunch.
It doesn't work. I mean, you're not looking at a guy or in a Brooks Brothers suit even. You're not looking at a guy where you're thinking swinger. And this is a case where you want the jury to think swinger. And so do you wear a shiny suit? Do you even wear a chain? You know, if you can, but right. I know that sounds crazy. And my office laughed at me on this, and I will admit it. But you're trying to sell a swinger story, and I don't think you do it in a Brooks Brothers suit.
Well, by the way, this is one of the conundrums of this case. One of the things that just perplexes me about it is the people have said, "Oh, he's going to lean into the swingers," and you know that's a bridge too far.
Well, Agnifilo said that.
Yeah, and I don't think it is. In fact. By the way, I mean, he had a contract with Diageo, which is the spirits maker, which was worth, upwards of $1 billion. And it.
Now, I want you all to please pay attention because Mark Garagos is now talking about Diageo.
Actively promoted his lifestyle, his kind of Brat Pack 2.0. Diddy lifestyle, which was a swinging nightlife, party all night lifestyle. So it's amazing to me that we've now taken that, and mind you, you and I are old enough to remember what an iconic figure Diddy was in the 90s going into the 2000s. And now they've tried to almost have this rewriting of history, if you will, to say, no, that kind of party lifestyle was really this RICO action. Well, 20 years, 30 years later, that might be a nice way to reframe it. But how do you bring a criminal case based on that?
Yeah.
And to your answer, I've got two minds about this in terms of the clothing. Yes, every case, whether it's high profile or not high profile, the defense lawyer asks for, anytime you've got a jury, for street clothes. And that is de rigueur. It is almost always granted. This case, I can see an argument against it, which we'll wait and we'll talk about next week or next Thursday if you have me in.
An argument to have him wear jail issue?
Correct. Let's see if any of the.
Oh, I got it. No. I think can I? I don't want to wait.
Yeah.
Can I take a guess?
Yes.
I'm taking a guess because in one of the Diddy docs, I interviewed Mark Agnifilo, and what he said to me was that in his view and what he's going to try to sell to the jury is this is an attempted takedown of a successful black man, and if you show him in those circumstances, it might actually underscore what Agnifilo is trying to sell, as opposed to looking at him like he's not in any distress.
I think there is that. I can think of another argument, but I'll save it for next week.
Okay. How long is jury selection going to last, do you think?
I'm guessing that because if you reverse engineer that opening statements are a week from Monday, that I think you'll have a jury by Thursday. If in fact people don't start, you can metastasize. I've seen this. And one of the reasons I think a very smart decision by the judge was to do what they call individualized jury selection. We used to call it here in California Hochverdacht, which we used to have in capital cases. But by doing it individually, you don't get one of those situations where somebody says, I've got this excuse, I got that excuse, and then it metastasizes and the whole panel comes up with the excuse in order to get off. If he gets enough people so that you've got enough strikes left, which means roughly 40, then you could have a jury by Wednesday evening.
And opening statements are
The following Monday.
Monday. Is Cassie the first prosecution witness?
I can't imagine that she wouldn't be, but who knows? Maureen Comey, as we've said, is very clever, so we'll see.
Is your daughter cluing you in at all on what the defense is doing?
Well, she's been very, very tight-lipped. I'm trying to
You raise her, you put her through college, and you get.
Okay, so there you have it. Gazing at the moon says, no matter what he wears, he'll always be scum to me. Okay, I'd have to agree with you on that, beloved. Absolutely. Okay, so with that all being said, please don't put other content creators' names in my chat without my permission or you knowing that it's someone that I've either had on my channel or someone that I shout out, okay, on a regular basis. All right, so I deleted someone's comment because they mentioned another content creator that I don't fool with, quite frankly. They've never done anything to me. We don't have a beef, but I just don't know them like that. Okay, so with that all being said, let me just say this to Grace. I believe it was Grace who said that Brian Steele and Trump have the same attorney. They actually don't, okay? They actually don't. I don't know where you got that information from, but Brian Steele and Trump don't have the same attorney. Brian Steele's attorney is the same woman who initiated the removal of District Attorney Fani Willis, okay, from the Georgia election interference case against Donald Trump, all right? And mind you, the real reason, beloved, and I've talked about this before, the reason that Diddy hired Brian Steele is because Brian Steele successfully got Young Thug off. That's also why he wanted to hire Joe Tacopino, because Joe Tacopino got ASAP Rocky off, who was facing 24 years. Also, by the way, it really wouldn't make any sense if Brian Steele and Trump had the same attorney. What does that have? What type of bearing would that even have on Diddy's case? Because I would think that if that were so important to Diddy, that he would actually want Brian Steele and Trump's attorney to represent him, not Brian Steele. If Brian Steele has the same attorney as Trump, you're saying that he's trying to make political ties. Well, he may be trying to do that, but I doubt it because, as I just told you, Brian Steele and Trump don't have the same attorney. Okay, I don't know where you got that from, but please go look it up. They don't. Okay, as I said, he has the same attorney who initiated the removal of Fani Willis, and I reported on that story too. Okay, so that all being said, let's go. Hold on, let me see if there's another update. Okay, here there is. Okay, so let me go to the next, give you all the next report. So it says, AUSA, this is what AUSA says, and we're the ones who've decided not to use the CNN video. There's no ruling by your honor. What? Do y'all hear this? They're not going to use the CNN video? I say, what now? Oh, but wait a minute. They are going to use the video, just not the one that came from CNN. That's what that was, I do believe. Okay, so anyway, they said there's no ruling by your honor. Based on the questionnaire, I am excluding her. Let's move to Juror 15. Juror 15 is a male. Says, I just started a new job in a hotel. So the judge excused that person. Okay, so that's one juror, potential juror down. Okay, so now with that all being said, as we wait for more updates, let's go to this video that I did previously. How long ago did I do this video? a year ago. It was a year ago when I showed you all the blueprints for the tunnels. So you can believe the tunnels exist or not. I have the proof that they do. So let's get to it. Okay.
Around and focus on Oprah long enough to realize something that devil did. Let me write this down so I can bring you all this week, honey. Y'all got to hear this. And let me tell you something. This right here, this is nothing. Wait till you see what I have for you tomorrow about Diddy, okay? Wait till you see what I have for you tomorrow, honey. It's all nefarious. It gets worse and worse as the days go by. As the days go by, okay? I just want y'all to pay attention. And you heard it here first. Hold on. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't even show you all the rest of the receipts of this blueprint. Hold on. Now, what do y'all think this is all about? Hold up. Let me show this. Then I'm up out of here. Y'all see that? Now, this was the first one. That's the first one. Okay, it says, earlier this week, Playboy published vintage photos of an excavation project along with a blueprint showing a series of tunnels. Honey, not one. Please pay attention and listen up. A series of tunnels connecting the infamous residents to various celebrity homes in the surrounding area. That's why Diddy wanted that house. Let me tell you all something. That's why Diddy purchased that mansion so quick. They barely could finish the construction before he snatched it up off the market.
Okay, I have to laugh at myself because, honey, I was in for it that day, honey. I was going in on Diddy's arse. Do y'all hear me? Okay, I'm a bit more laid back now because he's finally at trial. Okay, but, honey, I've been going in on Diddy for a minute. Now, Justice Network says best reporting I've seen so far. Thank you, beloved. I appreciate you.
Y'all heard what it said? That's why he wanted it, I guarantee you. Now, according to the article, when asked about the photos of the construction site, the new Playboy Mansion general manager said that's probably when they built the tunnels in the 70s. See that answer right there? That was a deflection because nobody asked him when the tunnels were built. They asked him why the tunnels were built. Please pay attention, okay? Clearly trying to deflect. And here's the second part. Now look at this. Let me enhance this. Because what's really going on here? Look at this. You see how it goes from this house to that house? Okay. It's all nefarious. Oh, hold on. I got a video to show you all too. Hold on. I got another video. I almost forgot. Hold on. I be having so many receipts I can't keep track. Pay attention. Now, a closer look at the blueprint shows there were plans to dig tunnels to the homes of Mr. Jack Nicholson, Mr. Warren Beatty, Mr. K. Douglas, and Mr. James Caan. Let me stop the share for a moment. Then I'm going to show you all another blueprint.
Now, I'm sorry, but who else showed you all that receipt? Okay, who showed you all that receipt? Now, Grace says, I got it from Brian having her stepping in for defending him against the contempt order in the Thug trial. That is what led to the judge's recusal. I watched it live. That is where I got it from, love. Okay, that's fine, beloved. I do know all about that because, yes, he was held in contempt. I reported on all of that. They had him arrested in the trial because he refused to tell them about the ex parte information that he received, okay, when they had the private meeting in the judge's chambers that he wasn't privy to, nor was his client. But at the end of the day, she's not Trump's attorney, okay? I mean, you can look it up. Matter of fact, let me just prove my point, okay? Because at the end of the day, I don't want anyone to ever think that I'm giving you false information, okay? Please pay attention. I'm going to let this video play while I gather the receipts to verify what I'm saying.
A closer look at the blueprint shows there were plans for all of this. We'll go ahead and assume they're talking about Jack Nicholson, Warren Beatty, Kirk Douglas, and James Caan, all of whom lived near the Playboy Mansion during the late 70s and early 80s. Now, according to the article, the partial tunnels were closed in 1989 when Hugh Hefner married then playmate Kimberly Conrad. Playboy reached out to the publicity representatives for Nicholson, Caan, Douglas, and Beatty and has yet to receive a comment. Now, why did they have any comments? Because they were going to ask them, were those tunnels really closed? Do you all think that they actually closed those tunnels? Now, here's the next picture. Let me show you all this. This is all crazy. I want you all to pay attention to the nefariousness of it all. But people still trying to make excuses and cape for Diddy. This man had a house with tunnels leading to other houses and all that. Come on now, allegedly. This is all alleged. Pay attention. Northbound tunnel to Mr. J. Nicholson's residence. Look at that. And then it says clearance may var further. I can't see all that because it's got that red thing in the middle, but it looks like it says clearance may var further information required on existing structures, ground conditions, and proposed construction. And then here's Mr. Warren Beatty's residence at the time. Death to San Andreas Fault along Sunset Boulevard. Oh, yeah. They were doing the most. They were doing the absolute most. But like I told you all, it's only 4 minutes away. It's only 4 minutes away. So why did they really need those tunnels? Now, hold on. I'm going to show you all this video. I haven't even watched this video because I was moving so quick. I was trying to find that old video from the 70s or the 80s that I saw years ago where they were talking about the tunnels or whatever. But this is what they were talking to Warren Beatty. I didn't get to hear what he said, but it didn't look like he wanted to answer. Hold on.
DJ Big Six says Jack Nicholson must be examined too. Honey, Jack Nicholson's half dead, beloved. I hate to say it, but Jack Nicholson, 87 years old, it's been reported that he's very sick, suffering from possible dementia and something else that they didn't say exactly what it is, but I just got it on very good information about 2 days ago that Jack Nicholson is almost up out of here going to the spiritual realm. Please pay attention.
He looks like he's pressed and stressed. I don't know. I haven't heard this yet, but let's see what he says.
Warren, so many things have been written about you. So many facts, interesting facts that we don't examine, have been thrown out. So I know you don't like.
Hold on, beloveds, because last time I showed this video on this same live that I'm showing you right now, I just thought about it. I got a copyright claim for showing that interview. So let me just put an overlay on top of this, even though it's my own video. Pay attention.
Talking about this, you don't like. So I'm just going to read them out, and we'll just try and read your expression to see if you're confirming or denying them.
It's a fun game.
It's a psychic sound. I mean, if you want, no, feel free. Feel free. If you want to confirm or deny them, okay. Yeah. Okay, here we go. You used to wash your hair every day with a 6-pack of beer. Oh, he's denying that. Okay.
That was my one. Yeah, I did that all the time.
Like, you only need no one has that much hair. One can do you. A 6-pack seems excessive. You and Jack Nicholson had your own secret passageway into the Playboy Mansion.
No.
Is that true?
Well, I think the story was printed that there was a tunnel going from Jack's house, which is near my house, all the way over to Hefner's house, which would probably have cost in the neighborhood of $1 billion. So, no, that is not true.
Okay.
Was it worth it?
You've lost.
Sitting right there lying in the man's face. Now, y'all know he's lying. We literally just saw the blueprints with his name on it, W. Beatty. Sitting there lying. Okay, I just want y'all to pay attention. That's how you know it's for something nefarious. And then he sat there and lied and said it would probably cost $1 billion to build that tunnel. Yeah, okay. I just want you all to pay.
Okay, so there you all have it. Okay, there you all have it. Rashid said all connected via underground tunnels. Absolutely. Okay, absolutely. Okay, Grace says Google lists Ashley Merchant as Brian Steele's attorney, so Google got it wrong too. What do you mean Google got it wrong? You mean that they got the attorney's name wrong? Well, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the attorney's name is. The bottom line is that attorney that Brian Steele has is not Trump's attorney. Okay, that's not Trump's attorney. Okay, please pay attention and read. It says, no, Brian Steele and Trump do not have the same attorney. Brian Steele, a criminal defense lawyer in Georgia, is not involved in Trump's Georgia election interference case. Trump is being represented by Steve Shadow. Okay, so that's his case. That's his attorney, Steve Shadow. Ashley Merchant is representing Steele in a different matter. Okay, so even if Ashley Merchant is representing Steele, the bottom line is Trump's attorney is Mr. Shadow. Okay, a totally different person. In fact, of a whole totally different gender. Okay, that's all, beloved. That's all I'm saying. Y'all know the queen gonna bring y'all the receipts as far as I can. Okay, Nike Man 20 said free Puffy. If you don't get out of here with that BS talking about free Puffy, honey, we absolutely will not. Okay, we absolutely will not. Grace said that is why we need you. Thank you, beloved. I appreciate you. I need y'all too, honey. Without y'all, there's no me. Okay, who can give commentary with no audience? Please pay attention. We all need each other. With that all been said, and we also need Diddy's R's to get convicted. Okay, that's what we need. Jay Grace said, "Where is TD Jakes, honey? If you don't sit down somewhere, you know exactly where he is, honey. Okay, and it's not the Potter's house because he stepped down and gave over the ministry to his daughter, who's also nefarious in my opinion. Don't forget that I showed you all the video where they were having that woman assaulted allegedly in the church. Do y'all remember that video? Honey, these people got some real shenanigans going down. Okay, these people are all peas in a pod as far as I'm concerned. All right. Reggie said, not Mr. Shadow from The Fifth Element. Honey, I didn't even see The Fifth Element, but that's the man's last name. His last name is literally Shadow. Nicole said, not TD Jakes is hiding in his basement. Okay, anyway, so let me see if there's another update. I'm about to be out of here. We'll have to go over the rest of these updates later because y'all know I'm going to be live again. Okay, let me see here. Oh, I think I left this off when I gave you all the last update. So with the last update, they talked about the juror being excused, juror number 15, because he just started a new job at a hotel. So they excused him. The next juror was number 20, which is a female, number 88 and 116 also. The judge says musicians. Juror 20 says, I have a training May 12th through 15th. Judge says, if you're selected, you're not going. Ooh, he said, if you're selected, you're not going, honey. Okay, he didn't excuse her. He let her know what time it was. Juror 20 said, I was a mandator reporter as a teacher at a school in the Bronx. I have a friend on Yonkers PD. Okay, so working at Yonkers Police Department, child, the judge don't give a damn. You heard what the judge told you, honey. Don't you tick off Judge Subramanian? He already told you if you're chosen, lady, you're not going. Okay, so now get in there and find Diddy's R's guilty so we can celebrate and the queen doesn't have to pack up her bags and move to Costa Rica. Because y'all already know Diddy's going to come for me. Please pay attention. Okay. And the insider who gave me the information about him bursting the chakras, as well as having the bacchanalia, aka freak-offs, that he supposedly got from ancient Rome, and telling me about the lesser key of Solomon, where Diddy was allegedly conjuring up those 72 demons. Do y'all want my head on a platter? Okay. Find Diddy's R's guilty. Please, for the love of the queen. Okay. I am so serious. Okay, so anyway, with that all being said, I'm going to conclude this broadcast, and if there's any more updates, y'all think it's a game, honey? Hold on. Justice Network said, right, we all scared if he get out. Damn, I got to rewind what you hashtag just said. Okay. Jay Gray said, Queen, Costa Rica is where Wig 2 lives. Not Wig 2. Wig 2 doesn't live in Costa Rica. That's some bull-ish Wig 2 put online. I remember reading that too, talking about she owns lion cubs and has a $4 million mansion in Costa Rica or some crap. Please sit down somewhere, Wig 2. We know you made it all up. Like Michael Jackson said, they're lying. They were lying. They made it all up. They made it all up. Okay, Wig was lying, y'all. Please pay attention. Okay, Nicole says, y'all got Queen. Y'all know Queen be cooking. And the fact that she interacts with the chat means a lot. Our mods say click. She deserves it. Thank you, beloved. I appreciate you. And thank you for your kind words and your contribution to the channel. Peace, love, and blessings. Okay, so honey, we're going to have a time with this trial because Diddy, you're going down. Okay, no matter what type of BS you try to pull, no matter what type of shenanigans, no matter who you've paid, no matter where those alleged celebrity S tapes are hidden that you think you're going to use to barter for your freedom, sir, you're going down. Okay, you are in fact going down. So anyway, with that all being said, I hope you all enjoyed this broadcast and tune back in later. Okay, please tune back in later because we are absolutely going to be still talking. Okay, Nessie X, thank you for being a member for 4 months, beloved. Says, Queen, you silly. You made me spit out my coffee. I'm being very serious, honey. Okay, y'all know I don't want no smoke from Diddy, honey. I know I might sit up here and talk tough, but let me tell y'all something, honey. If Diddy comes for my head, honey, y'all will see me up out of here so quick it'll make your head spin. Okay? It will make your head spin. April said, Queen is very transparent. Thank you, beloved. Okay, Terry said he's always going down. Exactly. Grace says, thanks, Queen, for clarifying the lawyers. You're welcome, beloved. And thank you for tuning in. And then Reggie says Houdini can't free Diddy. Not Houdini can't free Diddy. Okay, so anyway, shout out to the replay gang. Now, you guys, I unfortunately may have to edit this video so that I don't get a copyright claim and lose my monetization because I slipped up and showed like 20 seconds of that Two Angry Men video. Okay, so I think I'm going to have to edit it. All right. Reggie says, great broadcast. Thank you. Okay, so with that all being said, DJ Big Six says, Queen, you have real boots on the ground if any nefariousness goes down. You already know. Okay, you already know that I contacted my people in New York and told them to get on down there to that courthouse. Okay, they was actually trying to get me to come to New York. I don't know, I might, but they were actually trying to get me to come to New York so they could cover or so they could record me outside the courthouse, giving y'all the scoop. But anyway, I opted to just go ahead and listen to Matthew Russell from Inner City Press. And who knows? It's going to be 8 to 10 weeks, so maybe I will show up there. You never know. All right, so anyway, Grace said, just subscribe. Thank you, beloved. I appreciate you. Listen, I love you all to life. You're going to get the truth on this channel, okay? At the end of the day, I do my due diligence and I do my research to always bring you all facts and receipts. You all do not have to ever agree with me. I always tell you that I welcome contrary opinions. We can respectfully agree to disagree. I only have problems on this channel if somebody is trolling, being disrespectful, or anything like that. Okay, and let me just tell y'all something. Y'all know what's crazy? When the trial starts after they select the jury, and hopefully it'll be by Thursday, like Mark Garagos has said, what will be hilarious is when the trial starts. Hold on, let me find what I'm looking for here. If Diddy walks up in there like this during the trial.
If you think I'm here to play around with y'all, God damn it, I'm not.
Okay? God dang it, he's not. All right. So anyway, with that all being said, love you all to life. Each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives. Okay. And also, just for FYI, since we're at the trial, or since we're, the trial is in effect, I may start uploading some of those previous broadcasts. Okay, specifically some of the ones where I had inside information that nobody else was privy to. I might start uploading some of those videos sometime this week, just for those people who have not seen those. Okay, so anyway, love you all to life. Each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives. Until next time, I will talk to you all again soon. Okay, and also keep those notifications on because I will be back later on today, probably around 6. All right, so until next time, beloveds, peace.
my skin. God all in my blood. Kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you're done. They show no love for the queen. Why you hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans? I got dreams like King Luther, shed blood like Kunta. You ain't helping my people, I ain't got nothing to say to ya. I want all the smoke like hookah. Talking reparations, America won't be great until they give us compensation. I'm like, I'm the hottest right now. See a bunch of lames out here trying to jock on my style. They be doing too much. I'm the queen, it's too easy. It's like they all at Popeyes, how they be talking so greasy. I just sit back and laugh while these haters get madder. So nefarious how they don't want my pockets with cheddar. I tell them they can do better. These snakes in the grass can leave a bite on your ass, cause y'all be trusting too fast. I got my foot on the gas, other one on they necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regrets, we only facing the threats. Running through every challenge like a relay, break no sweat. It's a cold game, so I got that blanket with me. Now that my people awaken, ain't no going to sleep. I do not play by my piece, this time I'm playing for keeps. You talking slick, but when I see you like them ends, we gon' meet. And I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood. Kings all in my circle, you touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen, why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood. Kings all in my circle, you touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen, why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got